Competition tonight, 7-on-7 the rest of the weekend. We got some news of the day. Let's start with the big commitment today. Top 247 tight end Ian Premer, kind of a shocker late in the process, commits to Notre Dame. What are your thoughts on that one? He's an elite tight end.
Yeah, he is. And Tom, Notre Dame right now number 2 in the recruiting class rankings. If you think about it, hey, this is commit season, right? Used to be December, January, February when we saw the run of commitments, but over the past week, 100 prospects have come off the board and ended up at Power 4 schools, and certainly a huge addition for Notre Dame, which has had a ton of success at that tight end position. They're pairing him with Peyton Frizel, another tight end that they just beat out plenty for recently. So I like the addition. Anytime you can get a tight end prospect where the first clip of his highlight tape is him returning a kickoff for a touchdown, usually an indicator that the guy's pretty athletic, also carries the ball out of the backfield. So I think about Notre Dame, again, the success they've had at that position, a huge pickup for Marcus Freeman and the Irish.
They've had an incredible run. They are in it for Braden Robinson, top 247 receiver, Devin Fitzgerald, one of the top players. If they can get Devin Fitzgerald, Huff, I know you know this one well. How big of a pickup would that be for them?
Well, it'd be great. I mean, you look at the success that they've had in Arizona the last couple of years. Cree Thomas, they signed in the 2025 class. One of his teammates, Benjamin Morrison, they signed a few years ago, ended up being a 2-year starter for the Irish. So if they can continue to spread, and one thing we've seen is they've done a great job with NFL legacies, with the sons of former NFL players that either went to Notre Dame or didn't go to Notre Dame. There's a couple of different things that play there that if they can get a Devin Fitzgerald, the guy whose upside I think is immense, that could be a nice addition to a pretty good pass-catching unit they've already signed this year, or they've already gotten commitments from this year.
Huff, I want to stick with you. 3-star offensive lineman Aaron Thomas commits to Ohio State. How big of a get is this for the Buckeyes?
Yeah, well, I mean, speaking of teams having success in the state of Arizona, they had 2 starters on their national championship team on the defense with Denzel Burke and Lathan Ransom, both from Arizona. He's the second offensive lineman from the state of Arizona to commit to them in the 2026 class. So you're seeing that Ohio State continuing to recruit nationally. You know, there were years where they just recruited that region. Maybe they came down to the south when they had Urban Meyer, but they've really expanded under Ryan Day, their national reach, and kids want to go play there. They had 3 starters from the state of Washington on their team this year. So going to get Aaron Thomas, beating Florida State, where his father played, won a national championship himself, Texas A&M, and then I think Washington was also in there as well. A really nice addition, a nice pickup for the Buckeyes this week.
I got a text. I was tipped off earlier today. Top 247 quarterback Peyton Falzone. I was like, hey, I got a text, and he was like, hey, this kid is flipping. And I was blown away because he was locked in. Formerly committed to Penn State. He is now an Auburn Tiger. Andrew Ivins, nobody is higher on this guy than you. How big of a deal is this for Auburn?
Yeah, Tom, and I know, right, hey, we're out here at the OT7 Finals. A lot of quarterbacks out here,
Oh, yeah.
A lot of wide receivers, a lot of skilled players. I think this one isn't going to be talked about enough at the national schedule. Auburn getting their quarterback to follow up Deuce Knight, who, hey, we saw at the OT7 Finals last year. They had to find an arm, took swings at a number of guys, and Peyton is the individual. Falzone out of Pennsylvania. I have a 4th-round grade on this individual, right? He's in the back end of the top 247 now. I think I'm the highest out of anyone at 24/7 Sports, but I think this kid's got NFL traits, right? He's only 17 years old and 4 months. He's a kid that's a competitive swimmer. He does track and field, plays a little bit of basketball. He just checks off box after box. He's progressed as a passer. 23 touchdowns, 4 interceptions this past season. I think about Hugh Freeze, what he wants to do at quarterback. He wants a guy that can move around, and huge pickup getting Peyton Falzone because they have their quarterback right now, and a lot of the dominoes have fallen. So certainly I think some big news as we head into the weekend.
Now, on the flip side for Penn State, Troy Hune still committed. They obviously had the 2 quarterback class. Huff, another guy you know extremely well from out west. Why should Penn State fans still feel confident about their quarterback room with him being there?
Well, because he's a talent. I mean, he's an extremely talented quarterback. Got a chance to see him earlier this spring at the Under Armour camp. Got his invite to the Under Armour All-American game as a result of that performance. And a guy that, in San Diego, a lot of those guys, I mean, we think of the great history of San Diego, the multiple Heisman Trophy winners, but anymore it's like if you're not playing at one of the L.A. schools, at the Orange County schools, the Trinity League schools, you're a lot of times out of sight, out of mind. And Trey Hunt had all the West Coast schools wanted him, but he was dead set on going across the country. And I think if you look at the timing of when he goes to Penn State, with Drew Aller off to the NFL after this season, obviously there's going to be other guys that are going to be competing, but I think that they need to feel really good about him because you're just continuing to see him get better and better at every event he goes to after his junior season, heading into a big senior season, where I think he may end up seeing his ability skyrocket even more. The more comfortable he gets behind center, the more he takes those snaps, and I think he's going to be a guy that will be able to make that transition when he gets to Penn State to be an immense.
And I'll add here, Tom, right? Troy Hoon, we got him at the Elite 11 Finals last week. Reminds me a little bit of Mac Jones. He's kind of a throwback pocket passer, guy that works under center. Bumpy week initially for Troy Hoon, and then he ended excellent in 7-on-7 in play. And, hey, for Penn State, yeah, you lose an in-state top 247 quarterback. It ain't easy to sign 2 quarterbacks in the same recruiting class. And Andy Koltnecki, James Franklin, that entire staff there, they deserve credit for getting those guys in the boat, and they're going to be fine at that quarterback position. You mentioned after Drew Aller, Ethan Grunkmeyer, Jackson Smolik. It's certainly no reason to panic there at State College.
There's a couple more guys coming off the board later tonight. I don't think they've gone live yet, but top 247 running back Xavier Crowell, top 247 tight end Max Sutter. The crystal ball, the chatter behind the scenes, a lot of the positive buzz is on the Alabama Crimson Tide. But one more guy, let's talk about a guy who's here, going to be showing out all week long. And Jason Lopez, 3-star wide receiver, chose Florida State over Miami, Florida, a couple others. Ivins, another guy you know well. How big of a get is this for the Seminoles?
Well, you think about Mike Norvell in Florida State, 2-10 season, and you look at the 24/7 Sports class rankings right now, they got a top 10 recruiting class. Mike Norvell and that staff deserve a ton of credit for kind of flipping the script behind the scenes. Jason Lopez, a kid that, hey, Miami was in on him, but he wants to play 2 sports in college. He's also a really talented basketball player. I was just talking to him out here on the fields, and, VJ Edgecombe, Derek McQueen, he played against those guys in the AAU circuit. He could play basketball for a mid-major, for a high major, and Florida State's going to give him that opportunity. As a football player, he's at Chaminade Madonna Prep, same school that produced Jeremiah Smith. Maybe you guys have heard of him.
Pretty solid.
Elite in the slot. Reminds me a lot of Xavier Restrepo, just a guy that is very difficult to cover at the first and second level. So nice addition for Florida State, and I think he fits well into that new Gus Malzahn offense there in Tallahassee.
All right, let's get to the OT7 Finals. Absolutely loaded event all week long. The quarterback group is absolutely stacked. But before we get into each of them, there's a guy that we need to talk about, and it's Jared Curtis, 5-star quarterback headed to play for the Georgia Bulldogs. I've seen him a ton. He's in my backyard. This is going to be an opportunity for you to see him for the first time in a while, at least in person. What fires you up about Jared Curtis, just getting to see him tonight?
Well, Tom, we're trying to evaluate these quarterbacks, and it's not easy, right? It's the most difficult position to scout. If you don't think so, just look at the NFL. Those guys get paid a lot of money, and they frequently get it wrong. And for us, we like to see these guys in a competitive environment. And Jared Curtis, he's a guy that's dealt with a ton of injuries. We haven't seen him in a camp, in a 7-on-7 tournament in a long time. And then you look at him, what he's done at the prep level. He's playing a lower level of competition there in Tennessee. Now the stats, they're excellent. 70% completion percentage, 40 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. He also ran for over 600 yards, 18 touchdowns. So he checks off the box. He can make all the throws on tape. But what does this guy look like, when he's throwing alongside of Keyshawn Henderson, when he's throwing alongside of Diabell? And thankfully, we're going to get that opportunity tomorrow, hopefully Saturday and Sunday as well, as Jared Curtis is here. We saw him. He was kind of the guy I had circled. All right, Jared Curtis, watch. Where is he? Let me know when he walks in. He's here, and just want to see him kind of throw it around. What does it look like in this type of setting? And, hey, is it the end-all, be-all if they do an off-season event? Absolutely not. Arch Manning did nothing. Bryce Underwood, he did one OT7 regional tournament. He wasn't even at the finals. So, yeah, I think the weekend's all about Jared Curtis and coming off the heels of the Elite 11 Finals, because there's a ton of buzz right now behind Diabell, ton of buzz behind Keyshawn Henderson. And guys, this is just a snapshot in the evaluation. It's a 3-year stretch. We watch these guys. Everyone forgets about the senior season. So for me, just kind of want this data point to store that as we gear up for the senior years, and then we finalize our rankings in January.
Huff, no Jared Curtis at the Elite 11 Finals. Injury choice, a little bit of both. No Ryder Lyons, 5-star quarterback, just committed to BYU. I want to ask both of you, but Huff, I'll start with you. What can people in our job, in our line of work, from the evaluation standpoint, what can you take away from the 7-on-7?
Well, you get to see the competitiveness. You get to see how the teammates are responding to them. What's their body language if they make a bad pass, or if the receiver runs the wrong route? What's it like if there's a drop pass? What's it like, when they're trying to come back and win? I always go back in the old days of the old Nike 11 on and the Nike 7 on it was back in Beaverton. Yeah. Teddy Bridgewater, they were playing in the championship game against the team from Texas, and they were playing the full field. About 45 seconds left in the game. Teddy Bridgewater's got to go 80 yards to win this. And he's dancing as he's giving the audibles. They're running no huddle, and you could just see this smile, and you could see the fear in the Texas player's face that, like, Why is this guy so relaxed right now? And he picked him apart, won the game. So what did we learn? We learned that some guys are just cool and calm and collected, whether it's 11 on 11, whether it's a Friday night playing in front of everybody in town, whether it's 7 on 7. You want to see that competitiveness. You want to see what's their personality like, what's that body language like, what's the athleticism. Are they? We see guys get blitzed out here. We see these quarterbacks having to kind of run for their lives at time when the pocket collapses and they're running. We saw a couple of the quarterbacks that are ranked high at one of the OT regionals running for their life into the end zone, just chucking the ball up. So you're getting a lot of chance to see some of the other stuff that maybe isn't going to show up on tape that you have to be there in person to see, and that is the competitiveness, the personality, the body language, and whether their teammates want to be out there on the field with them.
All right. Go ahead. Now, I kind of want you to talk about this and how important this is on the scouting side.
Let's get to Travis Johnson. We'll jump back in. Hey, year 4 of the OT7 Finals. So I got some thoughts on what Huffman was talking about.
Travis, welcome, my friend. How we doing? Top 247 wide receiver Travis Johnson. Decision coming on July 4th. How fired up are you to finally have this process come to a close?
I'm very excited. I've been working hard my whole life for real. So I'm very excited for July 4th.
You got the finalists. I want to make sure I got it right. Michigan, Penn State, North Carolina, South Carolina, Indiana, and Georgia.
And Virginia Tech.
And Virginia
Yes,
Tech.
sir,
Okay.
yeah.
Have you narrowed it down at all behind the scenes privately? Like, where's your head at with just a week or so left in the process?
No, I haven't narrowed it down anything since I narrowed down to that 7. So my head, I'm in a good place right now. Yeah, I'm in a good place right now.
When you do pick a school, for all the fans that are watching, a lot of these, I'm guaranteed they're all watching at home.
Yes, sir.
What will they be getting in Travis Johnson, both the player or the person?
Player-wise, a dog. I'm going to do anything for whatever I got to do, whatever the coach tells me to do, I'm going to do it. Person-wise, a great, respectful human, and, yeah, just a good person.
Travis, obviously just off the heels of a lot of official visits, right?
Yes, sir, yeah.
We're in the dead period now, decision mode. Mm-hmm. I know you're not going to tell me you had a favorite visit, but what were some highlights? What are some things that stood out as you kind of toured the country?
Every place I went to, it was very good people. Yeah, I love all the coaches for the 5 schools I visited to.
Talk to me about Michigan. I got a quarterback there.
Yes, sir, yeah.
I think you saw him at the OT7 previously. Yes, Bryce
sir.
Underwood.
Yes,
what appeals about the Wolverines, who not too long ago won a national championship and closed really well in the 2025 recruiting cycle?
Bryce is just a good person, but on the field, he's a leader, a very strong arm, a great quarterback. Yeah, I think he's definitely going to start for them week 1.
Penn State, another team you got in there, right?
Sir.
Kind of the missing piece for the Nittany Lions, if you talk to people like me, might be that wide receiver position.
Yes, sir.
I don't think any of them caught a pass in the college football playoff semifinal.
Yeah.
Playing time has to be appealing
Yes,
there.
Sir, for sure. Penn State is great. Coach Hagan is the receiver coach. He recruited my brother when Coach Hagan was at UVA. So me and him have a good relationship for a very long time. So, yeah, and I love Coach Franklin. He's a great person.
What about North Carolina? All the hype. I mean, I feel like every show we've done, we're all talking about Bill Belichick.
Yes, sir.
What was that moment like when you first met him?
I think I met him in March. It felt unreal. I ain't gonna lie, but UNC is definitely an NFL program. Belichick got like 8 rings, so that's definitely an NFL program over there.
I got a follow-up question here, right? I was doing a radio interview kind of talking about North Carolina football, and, a couple of years ago, when Nick Saban called on the phone, it was a big deal.
Yes, sir.
When Bill Belichick reaches out to you or you shake hands with him on campus, what is that like? I mean, a guy that's won as many Super Bowls as he has.
It's just crazy. It just feels very unreal. That's what all I can say, yeah.
You also slipped in Virginia Tech there at the end.
Yes, sir.
In-state school.
Yeah.
Are you feeling some pressure to potentially stay close to home?
I'm not feeling any pressure, but I love Virginia Tech. They were my second offer, I believe. Coach Mines always did a great job with me, so that's Coach Pry.
College football is a quarterback-driven sport. We've seen it for years, but the Heisman Trophy winner won the Heisman largely for what he did as a receiver to the most dynamic players in football last year, Ryan Williams, Jeremiah Smith. Who would you say you pattern your game after the most, and what kind of impact player do you think you could be as a true freshman?
I think I can be a great – I can play outside and slot, definitely a deep threat. Catch the ball, make people miss. I think I can definitely step on the field with any program I go to and play early and do well.
Awesome. Top 247 wide receiver Travis Johnson. We appreciate your time. Good luck this week. Stay healthy, my friend.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thanks, bro.
Just kind of to follow up here on Travis Johnson, the wide receiver. I mean, this is a guy that's excellent at the catch point. And, what's unique about this OT7 finals, and I know we're going to get into the evaluations a lot of the guys we're going to be talking about are soon to be seniors, guys that are making college decisions, but there's some underclassmen out here, and I think it is an opportunity for them to kind of prove themselves. 3 years ago, when this whole operation first kicked off, it was Jeremiah Smith in Las Vegas making some noise. It was like, hey, who's this young pup that might be a generational talent? Last year, Tristan Keys, our number 1 ranked wide receiver in the class of 2026. I had no idea who he was. Left, went back, watched the tape. He shoots up in our rankings, and now everyone in the country wants him. So Travis Johnson, another guy that flashed last year, and to me, the size is what stands out off the hoof, right? He's big, he's long. Some of these other, blue chip pass catchers out here, Travis Johnson's kind of towering over them.
A lot of buzz around Michigan right now. Penn State's battling North Carolina, Virginia Tech, like you said, but a lot of buzz around the Michigan Wolverines. Let's get back to the quarterbacks a little bit. We talked about Jared Curtis. I want to talk about a guy who just put on an absolute show.
But before we get to that, I want to hear Ivins kind of
counter. Oh, yeah, that's true. He did have a 7-on-7 counter.
Standpoint.
Right.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with the evaluations is Huff. It's becoming more and more increasingly important for these college programs to get the right kids in the building, right? The kids that want to be there for the right reasons. I mean, hey, name, image, and likeness is here. This is year 3 of it. We have the rev share coming right around the corner. You talk to any college staffer. I know you guys work the phones all day. NIL is a discussion point. Hey, the impeding salary cap that gets brought up. It's how much are they offering this kid? How are we going to make the numbers work? And we don't get a ton of interactions with these individuals, and you get them in this type of setting, and it kind of always rings true. And I think you have to be calculated. But the guys that shine on these stages are usually the ones that are shining on Saturdays and then eventually on Sundays. So, it certainly isn't going to dictate and drive the entire evaluation. But in our business, where there are an endless pool of high school prospects, you're going to be a little more convicted in the individual that you have seen do it against best competition in a best-on-best setting.
When you always talk about data points, I love seeing these guys out here competing, being decisive, making decisions, especially the quarterback position. So this is a great event. It's not all fun and games. I know we're doing that right now. They're doing skills competitions. But this thing gets heated, especially when you get like SFE versus Raw. I mean, it gets in Midwest Boom. Yeah. It's going to be fun, man. All right, let's get on. I just mentioned Raw. Quarterback Dia Bell, 5-star talent, headed to Texas Longhorns, just put on a show at the Elite 11 Finals, won MVP. I mean, how special is this talent?
Well, I want to tee Huff up here. I feel like all I've done for the past week is talk about Dia Bell, right?
Fair.
Call him Mr. Intangibles. And I know, Huff, you haven't seen him as much as me, but I think the story here is, all right, what does it look like for Texas after Arch Manning? And, we can debate, is it going to be 1, 2 years there for Arch Manning, Arch Madness in Austin? But to me, I think Texas has their next quarterback. And that's not to take away from Trey Owens. That's not to take away from KJ Lacey, who we saw a lot on the OT7 circuit. But Steve Sarkisian, what he's been able to do, I think you can make a case. Texas is feeling a lot like Alabama under Nick Saban.
It was fascinating. I was listening to an interview this week with our colleague Bud Elliott on the Cover 3, and there was an interview with Dia Bell on it. And he kept touching on points like, hey, if I get there and Arch is there, that's great. I get to learn from him. If I get there and I get to play right away, even better. But I'm going in with the expectation that I'll probably be backing him up. And like you said, that was at Alabama where guys would go there knowing I may not see the field. I may not even see the practice field for 2 years. But I know this system, this program, these invaluable meetings with these coaches, the play calling is all going to be geared to making me successful when I get that chance. And that's one of the things with him listening to that interview. You could tell that he's thinking long term, because Arch went to Texas with the understanding that you may not start for a couple of years, and now it's all setting up for him in the 2025 season. Dia Bell's now doing that. Like, I may not see the field and be the starter until 2027. It could be longer, but I'm going in waiting to be a sponge. I want to learn and soak up as much as I can from the other quarterbacks in the room, from soccer. When you see Dia, you can see this is a guy that's been around the game. He's been around the game of football, the NBA game, but he's been around sports, and he understands how this works. And not all players are wired like that, and certainly not all quarterbacks are wired like that. But that's something I think that gives him a head up on a lot of the other quarterbacks in this class, is just he's wired differently and understands the big picture.
Yeah, well, 17 of the top 13 ranked quarterbacks last cycle ended up flipping their commitments. Dia Bell, no indications that he's looking around.
It seems like he's pretty locked in. All right, let's go from quarterbacks throwing touchdown passes to defensive backs, picking off passes. We got top 247 safety Tylen Wilson, Big decision coming. Is it still July 18th?
Yes, sir. Still
How's it feel being so close to that moment? I know you've been recruited for a long time. Last couple of years, you've been a huge deal nationally. How does it feel to finally see things coming to a close soon?
It feels great. I'm very proud of myself. Very happy. God made it happen for me. I feel great.
You got the Final Four, I think. Texas A&M.
Final three.
So Texas A&M, Arkansas, Clemson, and Ole Miss is what I had list. Who's not on there?
Ole Miss.
Okay, so Ole Miss is
I'll
out.
go to Ole Miss, but
All right, sorry about that, Rebels fans. Texas A&M, Arkansas, and Clemson. Give me a quick hitter about the Aggies. We were just talking about a Texas quarterback commit. What fires you up about the Aggies, man?
coaching. The head coach was a safety coach. The safety coach, great safety coach. Defensive coordinator is a safety coach.
How about Arkansas? What kind of catches your eye about the Razorbacks?
Family, Arkansas. That's family. The safety coach, he's from the same city I'm from.
Early on in the process, there was a ton of buzz about the Clemson Tigers, especially when it came to your recruitment, and they've been pretty hot on the trail. What do you like about Clemson?
Winning. They known for winning. Great program. Love coaching. That's great.
I always say, when recruits visit Clemson and they get around the program, they go on the official visit. You know if you like Clemson or not. You know if you're a Clemson kid. You were there. You spent time. You were there for the big official visit weekend, and I'm assuming you feel like you fit there at Clemson under Dabo Swinney.
It's the same way for every school. Yeah. So.
How about head coach Mike Elko? You brought him up. He's a safeties coach at heart. He loves the defensive backs. What's he like when you guys are just kind of hanging out, chopping it up away from like X's and O's?
Oh, he's very cool. We was talking about the finals. When he texted me when Tyrese got hurt, I said I was hurt when he went down. When he went down, I was so mad. Just mad. He was going for OKC. I was going for the Pacers.
I mean, he's like a Northeast guy. He can't be like an OKC fan, so he's probably just pulling against you there.
Probably was.
All right.
Probably was.
And then before we get you out of here, but I want to just ask you, like, when you make your decision 2 weeks away, 2.5 weeks away, what can those fans be excited about you, both as a person but also as a player?
Just my personality. Great personality. Just gonna have a great player. That.
I mean, I know you bring the juice on the field, so it's going to be fun watch you over the next couple of days. You're a big talker, but you back it up. So,
yeah.
Tylen Wilson, we appreciate your time, man.
Thank y'all.
All right, good luck this week. All right, that one's going to get interesting over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, it feels like a Texas A&M Clemson battle. I mean, Tom, I know that's your job there, but to me, when you turn on the tape, right, a guy that fits what Mike Elko wants to do on defense, Ish Aristide, the defensive back safety coach there. He does an excellent job, I think, of player evaluations and developing relationships. And Tylen Wilson is a guy that you can roll up into the box. You can use him in the slot. You saw the frame. I know it's a little hard to see on the cameras, but he's got some ready-to-play bulk. Think about getting him into the weight room there in College Station. This guy's going to look like a completely different player 2 years down the line. And, hey, Texas A&M, I know a few days ago they had the number 2 recruiting class in the country. I think it's top 5. I mean, there's so much movement going on right now, but, man, they are reloading on the defensive side of the ball. Tristan Givens, 5-star defensive lineman. Ivins, I always mess that one up.
You nailed it.
I got it right that time, but I really like what they're doing on the defensive side of the ball, and that starts with Mike Elko, right? It's a program where the head coach sets the attitude and the tempo and player development and player acquisition, and he's doing an excellent job.
Huff, I want to ask about the USC Trojans. They have the number 1 recruiting class in 2026. They have a very good quarterback headed there, a top 247 quarterback, Jonas Williams. So just big picture, I mean, I know with Jonas being a Midwest guy, being from Illinois, Chicago area, just big picture for the USC fans at home. How impressed have you been by what they're doing?
Well, first of all, I saw Jonas Williams last summer at Oregon's SNL camp, and then a week later he picked the Ducks and then flipped to USC. And that's been a common theme this spring is how many guys that were committed to Oregon or leaning towards Oregon ended up at USC. Now, I'd love to give the credit to Lincoln Riley. He's the head coach. But the reality is this is Chad Bowden's fingerprints all over this, because Lincoln Riley was on record saying a little more than a year ago when fans were wondering, why are we not recruiting Southern California? Why are we not recruiting the West Coast? This is our home base. Why are we chasing after guys from Georgia and Texas that ultimately aren't going to come this way? And he said, we're a national brand. We need to recruit nationally. And they would recruit nationally and then lose those guys. Meanwhile, those Southern Californians they try to circle back to towards the end were already knee-deep with the school that they ended up at. Chad comes in and completely revamps the entire focus of how they're recruiting, and so they have cleaned house in Southern California. They've been able to recruit nationally, but you look back at the Pete Carroll years, that the success that they had was winning with those local players, the West Coast kids. Even going out to Hawaii to get the number 1 player there in Talanoa Ely. You've got him committed. Now, he's from Southern California. He played at Orange Lutheran. You were able to flip a Tom from Oregon. You were able to flip a Jonas Williams, who's a national guy, from Oregon to USC. Getting a Mark Bowman, who most people thought was ending up elsewhere, he goes to USC. And so the focus has really been on those Southern Californians. And then you can go grab a few guys here and there that are from the Midwest, from the Southeast, from the East Coast. Went up to Ohio, got to commit up there. But the focus has been, and that's Chad's big focus, is to make Southern California USC territory again, and it's never been more evident with the number 1 class right now.
Well, I said it, I think, a few months ago on the 105, and, I don't think it's been picked up. But to me, the biggest thorn in Dan Lanning's side right now is USC, ever since Chad Bowden has arrived. I mean, Dan Lanning and the Ducks were getting whatever they wanted from the L.A. area. In comes Chad Bowden. A shift in philosophy. Hey, we're going to keep these local guys home. And you look at the recruiting class rankings right now, USC's 1. Oregon is all the way down in the 40s and 50s. And obviously Dan Lanning's going to close extremely well. He has done that every year since he has taken over from Mario Cristobal there in Eugene. But that's what stands out to me, the kind of the changing of the guard. Now, we'll see. I think USC's going to have to show some proof of product on the field here in 2025, but it's certainly going to bleed over into that 2027 class as well.
I want to get back because I want to talk a little bit more about Jonas Williams and USC, but we got a 5-star right here, 5-star wide receiver, Cedarian Morgan. This is a guy who I am going to make the trip down to Alabama, Alexander City, Alabama, for a huge day, July 2nd, big commitment. Cedarian, first of all, Andrew Ivins, our director of scouting, many, many moons ago, called you, I believe he ranked you the number 1 receiver in America, or right up there, fresh off a Nashville Under Armour camp a year ago. What did that mean to you to have, I believe, 4 offers under your name and be listed as among the best players in America?
I said it really pushed me and motivated me because before I went out there, I always knew that I can compete with some of the best players in my class. So when I went out there, did what I did, that was like a start for me, and I see it, and I was thankful and stuff like that. But I know I still had more work to do, and it just gave me motivation.
Cedarian, I do the annual Freaks list. We were talking about it, a few minutes ago. You're a guy that won a state title in the high jump. You're a guy that's made the Sweet 16 in back-to-back years on the basketball court. And, oh, by the way, you caught 70 passes this past season for close to 1,200 yards and multiple touchdowns. I got to ask you, what is the freakiest thing that you think you do in terms of athletic ability?
Really probably my high jump. A lot of people, 6'5", 220 can't jump over 6'8", or run fast. Just the things I do at my size is, very rare.
I want to ask you, I know you had your top 6, and then I think Clemson got eliminated. You narrowed it down to top 5. Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
I want to talk about each of them real quick. Alabama, we'll start with them. What do you like about the Tide?
Just their tradition to win. And with the new staff coming in, they like to throw the ball, and they done had a lot of success with receivers my size. So that's one reason I picked them to be in my top 5.
What about the Auburn Tigers?
My relationship with them is probably I can't explain. Like I said, Coach Dave has been recruiting me since I was a freshman. He was coming to see Malcolm, but he always, said hey, or gave me tips and things I can do to get better since my freshman year.
Coach Prime, Deion Sanders. I know you had a good visit out of Boulder. What was that? What stands out about Colorado?
Just how Coach Prime carries himself, and the way he carries his team and the standard that he set. That is great to me, and the stuff. I feel like he's building a very special program.
Florida's one. When we talk, you always seem to rave about the Gators. You've always called them a dark horse in your process. So what do you like about Florida?
They're good. They got good people as well. But Coach, Napier and Coach Gonzalez, they done did a great job with receivers in their pass. So I feel like if I went to Florida, they'll be able to get me to the next level.
Over the next couple of days, you're going to be teaming up with 5-star quarterback Jared Curtis. You kind of hinted at me earlier, hey, you guys might team up together in college. So he's headed to Georgia. What do you like about the Bulldogs?
Like I said, Coach Kirby, Coach Smart, he got a great history of winning. And like I said, I know I got me a quarterback that's going to be able to get to me. Me and Jared, we talk a lot, and this is going to be our first time, being together. So I'm just ready for it and ready to let y'all see what we can do.
You're inside of a week before you make your decision. What's this process like for you now that you're getting down to crunch time, getting to make this decision? Is there kind of a daily process where you're saying, okay, I'm going to spend time and make my pros and cons list? Do you have a decision made up in your mind? Or are you still literally struggling between all 5 programs? And how is it getting to the point where you feel confident in making that decision in July 2nd?
I'm not going to say I'm struggling, but I'm still kind of, I haven't just made my mind up all the way because, like I said, it's going to be a very tough decision for me because all the schools, have the sparkles and, the good things and all them good people. All of them do a lot of good things as far as winning, development. But it's just going to take me to sit down with my family and, just talk about the good and the bad of each school and why I think I fit the best.
Cedarian, obviously we love you as a prospect, right? You mentioned that you're 220 pounds. You high jump 6'7", it might be 6'9". I can't recall off the top. We struggle for a player comp with you. You're built like DK Metcalf. You make these contested catches like George Pickens. Give us a self-scouting report. Who are you and what are you bringing to the table wherever you end up deciding on July 2nd?
I like to compare myself to Julio. That's my favorite receiver. Julio. DK, just the bigger receivers that can move, run routes, win one-on-ones. But I like to call those type of like do-it-all receivers, So that's how I, compare myself. And yeah.
Compares himself to Julio Jones. We'll see if you're following in his footsteps in a week. So, Cedarian, I appreciate the time, my friend. Thanks as always.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all.
All right.
Thank y'all.
Well, Tommy, yeah, you mentioned the Jared Curtis connection.
Yeah.
They're playing on the same 7-on-7 team out there, but you also listed off Auburn. Okay, they got a young quarterback that we're pretty bullish on. Good things coming out. Induced night from spring practices. Alabama, Keelan Russell, Gatorade Player of the Year last season. Colorado, Juju Lewis there. And then Florida, DJ Lagway. Gators got him for hopefully 2 more years. They're going to probably have to hold on to him, but 2 years before he can make his way to the NFL. And so he's certainly got some good guys throwing him the football wherever he ends up.
Yeah, it's not too shabby. I mean, this kid is outstanding. I mean, he's an elite talent. He's going to be taken care of like he is. But is there anything about his game that gives you a little pause? I mean, obviously he's ranked as a 5-star. You love him. But what do you think is one area that maybe he could work on, maybe an area for improvement?
Yeah, I don't know how much of a vertical threat he's really going to be on Saturdays and Sundays. And what I mean by that, I think he makes his money in the slot, right? And it's, we were kind of joking behind the scenes, the 24/7 sports scouting department. Hey, is this guy a tight end? That's why I was so eager to see him. It's been the first time in over a year since Under Armour's Future 50 event. I was wondering if he was a guy that was potentially going to, get some H-back in-line work, but his ability to separate, create spatial awareness. We talk about him on the basketball court. He boxes out defenders and he makes acrobatic grabs. And I think the big sticking point with him when he gets to college and the Sunday evaluators come around, it's going to be that top end gear, right? How fast is he truly? But for a guy that can line up in the slot, I think he's someone where he can catch 8 to 10 passes, get 12 targets a game in the SEC. I think he's a cheat code. He's a super unique prospect and really someone we haven't seen come out of the high school ranks in recent years with his explosion and his size.
Huff, I want to get back to Jonas Williams a little bit. Obviously, just wrapped it up with Cedarian Morgan, but you've seen him multiple times. I know you weren't at the Elite 11 Finals, but you've seen him plenty to have a strong evaluation. So what did you like about his game the couple times you saw him working out?
I love the way, just his composure. In those camp settings, you see a lot of guys that get frenetic. They're trying to make every throw, and especially with quarterbacks that aren't necessarily getting recruited by those coaches that are there. They're trying to make every impressive throw, trying to make everything look extra, make it look way more dramatic than it needs to be. Just a real cool, calm, and composed. I mean, you can see the crowd's going excited about what I'm saying.
Yeah, right.
But just real composed. Doesn't have the, doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low, just kind of stays that even keeled. And there's value in that in your quarterback. You don't want a guy that's so frenetic that they just can't control themselves in those trying situations. You want a guy that's just cool, calm, and collected. I go back to that Teddy Bridgewater thing. We saw it 2 years ago with Michael Penix, just the way he was in those key moments. You want that quarterback who's just got that flat line the entire time, not flat lining, but you just, the peaks aren't too high, the valleys aren't too low, and you see that. But then you have the physical ability that he has. He throws the ball so well, can make all the throws. Really on those short and intermediate routes does a good job, but they can hit those deep throws. Getting to watch him match up with DeCorian Moore, I think Oregon coaches got a little too excited because they couldn't hold on to Jonas, but watching those two work at that camp together, it was pretty impressive to just see kind of the chemistry. And again, you're bringing in guys from these camps that there's not a lot of timing worked out. There's not a lot of chemistry that's right there, but you're getting to see the way that he lets those receivers adjust to his throws pretty quickly.
All right. Before we have one more special guest here coming in a second. Give me a quick wrap on what you saw from Jonas out at the Elite 11 Finals.
Well, Tom, I wrote about this on our USC message board yesterday. You know, some of the Trojans faithful wondering if he's going to move up in the rankings. And what really stands out to me, Jonas Williams was awesome on the final day there at the Elite 11 Finals. Ends up in our top 11. But I don't think a lot of people bring up the fact that he was the youngest quarterback in attendance there. And timeline with these prospects isn't discussed enough, right? Some of the other finalists there are nearly 2 years older than him. And, you know, you're watching the NBA draft last night. You got the NHL draft coming up a few weeks from now. Birthdays are a really, really big deal when it comes to the world of scouting. Again, we're talking about teenagers, 16, 17, 18, 19-year-olds, all developing physically, mentally on different timelines. So to me, what stands out about Jonas Williams is he's young. He has a chance to leave Illinois as an all-time leading in passing yards and in touchdowns. And I think he's a kid that can kind of fight through a little bit of adversity because he didn't have the best 2 days at the Elite 11 Finals. And the other thing that stands out to me, Tom, I think he's the perfect fit for what Lincoln Riley wants to do on offense. Does he have a cannon? No. But he can make some touch throws. He can get out of trouble. He can escape with his legs. And USC has their quarterback of the future in Hassan Longstreet. Jonas Williams is someone they can put in the crock pot for 2 or 3 years, and that's exactly what he needs.
I was very excited to see him finish so strong. He's a very likable kid. He's soft-spoken. He's quiet. But, man, Jonas absolutely turned it on in that final day of the Elite 11 Finals. All right, now we got another special guest, a guy with a pretty familiar name. 3-star wide receiver Devin Fitzgerald, the son of Hall of Famer, legendary wide receiver Larry Fitzgerald. I don't know, Devin, are you the best football player in your family?
Not yet. I'm trying to get there.
I love that. All right, I know you got a decision coming July 5th. You got a finalist group, I believe, still of Notre Dame, Clemson, UNC, Stanford. I think Arizona State's in there, UCLA as well.
I think, my top 4. I dropped my top 4 last week. It's
okay.
Clemson, UCLA, Notre Dame, Stanford.
Okay, so we'll go with those 4. We'll start with Notre Dame. What stands out about the Irish?
I would say just the people. I really think the people there, the community they have over there, and like just how all the alum come back to the Irish. To South Bend. And it's not a fun place, but it just shows how great the school is, how people come back and support. And
then what about the Clemson Tigers?
I would say Coach Sweeney, he's special. He's a special coach, great coach. And I like all the other kids also. I thought all the players were cool.
Okay. And then how about Stanford?
Stanford, it's just the best school in the country. I mean, the best academics here in California. Chance to play early. Yeah.
Did you get around Andrew Luck when you went up there?
I did.
What was he like?
He's changing it around for sure. He's trying to make it more of a football culture.
And then I think lastly you said UCLA?
Yeah,
What
UCLA.
appeals about the Bruins?
Coach Foster, Coach Toller, a great relationship with both of them. And also I like the quarterback situation they have over there. It's Anderson, Cali, great location.
No argument with that.
I was going to say, hey, Tom used to live in South Bend. I used to live in South Bend, man. It's a fun place. Some Notre Dame fans out there are going to be a little upset. Huffman's been there for a game. He likes South Bend.
No, I think it's fun right there on campus, but there's not much to do. You got to make your own fun. That's okay.
There's a reason why they keep you guys on campus. Huff, I'm going to put you on the spot. I know you're a big fan of Devin Fitzgerald. Why should the Final Four, those fans, be excited about this guy?
Well, I mean, you're looking at a guy who just continues to get better. My guy, Jason Jewell, stop holding you back and, throw the ball a little bit more. But part of one of the most talented wide receiver rooms in the country. Between him, Dalen Sharper, Donovan McNabb Jr., a lot of star power there. And, quarterback situation where you got Vandenbosch just throwing you the ball. But this is a kid that I think is going to be playing his best football over the next 4 years. You're going to be announcing your decision with us on CBS Sports on July 5th between those 4 schools. When your dad was being recruited 25 years ago, obviously the recruiting process was much different.
Yeah.
He went to Pitt, had a phenomenal career, got robbed in the Heisman Trophy. Yes, I said it. But you've been able to grow up around the game. You've been able to, watch what a refined professional receiver's done. How much of a developer as a receiver, not just as, your father, in terms of taking you on the road with these visits? I know he's gone on a lot of these visits with you. But what is the biggest things that you learned from your dad as a receiver over the last few years?
As a receiver, I feel just the little tips and tricks he gives me. and also just you want to fall in love with like the training and like the work you have to put in to get there. You don't want to fall in love with like the results. That's really what gets you through it, and that's what he really preaches to me. And I feel like that's something you really got to focus on.
UCLA and Clemson don't have any ties to you, but Stanford got a commitment from your teammate Dalen Sharper a couple of weeks ago. Notre Dame had your teammate last year, Cree Thomas, who I believe was your host on the official visit. So UCLA and Clemson are doing their own recruiting, but who's recruiting you harder right now, Cree or Dalen?
I mean, I see Dalen every day, so of course Dalen, but Cree will text me probably every other day. I say they're both on me.
Notre Dame's the school that a ton of NFL legacies have ended up there in South Bend. You know, you mentioned all the alum coming back. I mean, how much has Dad kind of steered this recruitment, or has it been all you? Have you gravitated towards these schools, or has he kind of, pushed you in some direction, maybe because of some of the relationships he's had?
He hasn't really pushed me in a sort of direction. I feel he's really letting me make the decision, but he has preached to me what he believes is important, which is of course academics. It is not just a 4-year commitment; it's a lifetime commitment.
Arizona football. Huffman's moving to Arizona here.
Yeah.
You're out here at this national event, right? A lot of kids from Florida, a lot of kids from California, a lot of kids from Georgia. What are you trying to prove here at the OT7 Finals?
I just love to show that Arizona can compete. Like Tucson Turf, most of the kids are from Arizona, and we never do bad. Last year we top 4. We lost to SFE by 1 point. I think one of the highest 7-on-7 games ever. So I mean, we're here to compete and just put Arizona on the stage.
Tucson Turf is an absolute force. We were joking about it earlier. They have to be among the favorites, and it doesn't hurt that they have you playing for them. So Devin Fitzgerald, we appreciate your time. Big decision coming up soon. We're excited to host it on 24/7 Sports and CBS Sports. Thanks, man.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I think we might be going quickly to a nice segue here into Samari Matthews, top 247 cornerback, but Devin Fitzgerald, man.
Huff, where's he going, man? You're all over
What's
it.
the prediction?
I mean,
Get a crystal ball in.
It does seem like Notre Dame has been the trendy pick for quite some time with Cree Thomas there. I know that he really connected. You mentioned the NFL legacies. He did a photo shoot with Kadon Finley, whose dad, Jermichael, played in the NFL, with Thomas Davis, whose dad played in the NFL. On that visit, he spent time with Jerome Bettis, with with Bryce Young, 2 NFL legacies themselves. And I think that that's something that, if you're a dad and you've been in the NFL and you want your kids around guys that are going to be, kind of similar, that had similar experiences, being under a microscope, being under the spotlight of being the son of an NFL star, that's a good place to go. But I know that, Clemson, it was weird because they brought him out for an official visit without having offered him. They didn't offer him till the official visit. We all know that Dabo Swinney has his own style of recruiting, but that to me was one of the most unique recruitments in that they brought him out for the visit, wanted to see how real that interest was, then offered him on that trip. So I'm not going to count out Clemson entirely, UCLA and Stanford with the West Coast ties, but right now things are looking good for the Irish.
Well, I'll say this before we get to smoke real quick. I mean, Clemson, Notre Dame, I love what they're doing both at wide receiver at those positions. I think the Irish have really picked it up. You brought up Elijah Burris. I think he's going to play as a true freshman in 2025. I don't know if that's a hot take or anything, but I've heard some good stuff about Elijah Burris. And then, Bubba Frazier, Dylan Faison, Jordan Faison's brother. And I think with what Clemson has committed, Connor Salmon, Naeem Burrows, Devin would certainly kind of add some more firepower to both those recruiting classes, which are already really good at the wide receiver position.
All right, we got another top 247 talent here, Samari Smoke Matthews. Decision coming on July 11th, man. How excited are you after being recruited for the last couple of years to finally see your process come to a close?
I'm really excited. I mean, this process has been stressful. I know my mom and dad is very happy from the phone calls and text messages they've been getting. I'm excited to finally see where I'm going home at, and it's a really big moment for me.
Tom, before you get in the nitty-gritty, nickname Smoke, where does this come from?
So I have an older brother, Tyree. He's kind of like the manager, all the media. That's all my big brother. Shout out to him. But he kind of came up with Smoke when I was fast. I used to run track. I used to be a track guy. I was really fast, and I used to smoke people in track. So it kind of started picking up at high school, and it kind of stuck since.
Well, I think it's one of the better nicknames here in the 2026 cycle.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
All right, let's look at your top. Do you still have the top 5?
4.
So Texas, South Carolina, Florida State, and Miami. Who got eliminated? Oh, wait, that is 4. I have 5th on there. That's my bad. Texas. There's a lot of chatter about the Longhorns. You and I were joking about it before at the 7's 7-on-7 event. You said, I said, hey, which offer do you not have you want? You said it. You said you wanted Texas. I think you said 2 hours later it came. What appeals to you about the Longhorns?
Pretty much everything. I mean, like they say, everything's bigger in Texas. Texas stands out a lot, not even with the football, but outside of football, what they provide to athletes outside of the field. After football, what they can provide for you. It's pretty much develop you more as a man than a football player, and it's something that me and my parents are definitely intrigued about.
You got the Texas wristband on there,
I do
too.
have
So
the Texas wristband
I
on.
don't know if that's a hint, but we'll know in a couple weeks. But South Carolina, what stands out about the Gamecocks?
Hour and 30 from home. Coach Beamer has done an amazing job with South Carolina. He kind of turned that program around after we saw this season. I mean, it kind of shocked all of us. We thought they should make the playoffs. Coach Gray, development with DB, with Cam Smith, and he just had a DB drafted this year with Nick. It's not far from home, so my mom and dad can come see me every weekend. And just the football there, the fan base there, that's the biggest thing about South Carolina. I mean, if South Carolina didn't win a game, that fan base will still be swinging that towel as hard as they can until their shoulders get knocked out. And then all my friends, like Xavier Currents, one of my closest friends, he's committed there. So I have a lot of relationship and ties there in South Carolina.
We were talking about Florida State earlier. They've been pretty hot on the recruiting trails as of late. What do you like about the Seminoles?
I think pretty much if you ask anybody who commit there, the biggest thing is Norvell.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, Norvell, he's a high-energy coach. He's going to give you 100% every day. He's going to expect the same from you. When he talks to you, he looks you straight in your eye. It's kind of intimidating at first, but he looks you straight in your eye, and he just gives you the real everything you want to hear out of a coach, not just the good, but also the bad.
And
Coach Surtain.
Surtain, before we move on to Miami, like, what makes him such a special DB coach?
He lived the lives we want to live.
Yeah.
He went to college, graduated college, went to the league, and was one of the greatest in the league, you could argue. So he lived everything we want to do, and he's just a coach who breaks it down to a way that you understand. He makes football kind of easy to learn, and if you buy into it, you'll definitely become one of the greatest like him.
And then lastly, we'll wrap it up with Miami. What jumps out about the Hurricanes?
What Coach Crucible is doing over there is definitely special. The recruiting class he got coming in, even in the 25 class, was amazing. The progress he did with Miami from making them a mid-program to having conversations that the U could be back to what they was is something that buys me all in. And with the new staff, with Coach Harris and Coach Zach, it's a lot of stuff in Miami that could really intrigue players to go there.
Smoke, I got to ask, obviously we're in this new age of recruiting. Yeah. It's all you know, right? And there's compensation and name, image, and likeness, and I'm assuming a lot of negotiating on these visits. But what are you still looking for? You brought up the location with South Carolina. Mm-hmm. Is playing time, like as a freshman, that's got to be appealing. And each one of these schools that you've listed off, I mean, they play a lot of young pups, especially South Carolina. I mean, Dylan Stewart out there as a true freshman. Is that something you're looking for in a school?
Definitely. I mean, who doesn't want to play early? I mean, you want to put your city on the map, and you want your friends and families to watch you play on the big TV screen. But, I mean, I wouldn't say it's like a make or break for me. I mean, I'm okay with waiting my turn. I'm okay with working for what I have. I don't want nothing given to me. So I want to say playing time is the biggest thing, really the biggest thing, just relationship and comfortability. I mean, if I feel like the coaches could be my coaches and people I trust outside of football, that's like the most important thing to me.
A good chunk of this class is already committed. You're uncommitted. So that means that the coaches have more time to focus on the guys that are uncommitted.
Yes.
What's been the last couple of days like since the visits ended in terms of how much time are you spending on the phone, talking to coaches, telling one, I'm going to have to call you back, I'm on the line, or are you able to just shut it off at all and just come out here and play some football this weekend?
I was able to shut it off, play some football. I can say all the coaches I do respect that I have a life outside of this recruitment, and I respect they have a life outside of this recruitment. So they do a great job balancing recruiting me and letting me like focus on my out of football stuff, out of my recruitment stuff. I mean, and really it be the players who already committed, like Devin, who was just up here, and Aaron Gregory, and a whole bunch of other commits. They recruit you harder than any coach will ever recruit you. Like, for instance, Diabell at Texas, he'll probably text me close to, like, every week, just, like, checking in. Got Devin Carter at Florida State. Whole bunch of people at Miami now. So, I mean, it really be the people who committed there trying to make the program better. Of course, you want to play with your friends, so I think they make it harder than the coaches do.
One of the most impressive student athletes in the country, Samari Matthews. Thank you so much for the time, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, this dude, I mean, every interview is impressive. Then you watch him play, might be even more impressive.
Tom, where's your crystal ball for him?
I think we're leaning Texas. There's just something about that interaction. I think it's going to be very difficult for him to leave home. And I think South Carolina's a big player, but man, this dude was so fired up, so emotional. He really wanted the Longhorns offer.
Huff, what do you think? I mean, it's not my.
I love this. This is a great take.
I don't have a crystal ball anymore. I got South Carolina vibes.
Yeah, I mean, you heard the way he said if they didn't win a game, they would have 80,000 fans swinging their arm out. I mean, you're paying attention to the big picture there. And there was a time where South Carolina wasn't winning games, and they still packed that stadium out. And I think that's the later you get into the recruiting process, you see that all the time. The more the team that's closer to home starts to pull and pull and pull to keep you there. But if we're playing the hat game, if we're playing the gear game, I remember going to a game back 15 to however many years ago, and Adoree Jackson wore USC gloves, UCLA wristbands, a Florida towel, and an LSU skull cap. All four of those schools were in his Final Four, and it was literally like, okay, man, should we read into it? Is one that you have on the hands, this and that? There's only only one school represented on the wristband, and it was Texas. So, like you said, that was an offer he craved. That was the one he coveted, and he got it. And now Dia Bell's reaching out and just sending friendly reminders to him.
Well, I'll say this: a lot of smoke screens out here. I've been body typing. We got Derek Cooper decked head to toe in Texas gear. Tristan Keys made sure to wear an LSU hat. It's taking mental notes, but I don't know. I don't play the hat game.
Smoke screen, though. I see what you did there.
Well done. Andrew Ivins, ladies and gentlemen, beer all week.
I want to add this on Samari, right? A guy that has really grown on us in the evaluation process. You know, one of the most boring watches in the class, and that's because people don't throw the football at him, right? You can watch 4 games, and he's going to maybe get 1 or 2 targets. We had some questions about his ability to make, breaks on the football. Hudson Stanish on our scouting team got a chance to evaluate him at one of the Under Armour camps there in Charlotte a few months ago, and he was excellent in one-on-one situations. You saw the frame. I mean, he is built really well. Ready to play bulk is what you'd say, and I think he's a kid that can play in the boundary in the SEC or the ACC, depending on where he wants to end up. Just really impressive individual. We talk about getting the right guys in the building. Smoke Matthews certainly, I think, someone that everyone wants inside the facility.
And even watching him before the event started this evening, just watching him on the field, talking to a bunch of guys, just you could see that the personality. I mean, what a fantastic interview. Tom said it. He's just a great personality, and shout out to his brother because he's been training him to do well. But it was very genuine, very natural, and so whoever gets him is going to get an absolute just gregarious personality that's going to really captivate that locker room.
Because how he handles himself, carries himself, I think that's what makes it so difficult to read. He loves everybody, speaks so highly of everybody. You can't really nitpick and be like, oh, he gave something away. So, again, I'm leaning Texas, but if it's South Carolina, I'm not going to be shocked. Now we got a guy who already made his decision, 5-star wide receiver Tristan Keys, the number one receiver in America. Tristan, how does it feel to just be out here at the OT7 Finals competing against the best of the best?
I say it's truly a blessing. I get to represent for my hometown, the little kids that don't think big things like this can happen. So, yeah, that's really the biggest thing for me.
It's so impressive when you come to these events because you go everywhere. I believe you did Under Armour last year, went to the Poly Bowl, came back all within like a week or so and ended up playing, I think, Battle Miami.
Yeah.
Where does that come from? Like, why are you out here wanting to compete as hard as you do?
I say the grind come from just like where I was raised at, from playing football on the concrete, the grass, anywhere, just having that dog mentality, receiving it from the people I looked up to. So, yeah, that's where it come from.
Tristan, I got to ask, I just brought up on the broadcast, you were rocking the LSU hat earlier. No LSU hat right now.
Yeah.
My buddy Tom Loy over here said yesterday that he doesn't think you might not end up at LSU. You've taken a ton of official visits. So what's the latest with the recruitment? Where do things stand right now?
I feel like they're doing a great job what they do from the coaching standpoint. I went on OV this past weekend, I want to say. Yeah, this past weekend, got a chance to get a feel with the locker room guys, talk to the coaches. I've been there 1,000 times, man, so I pretty much know how everything kind of flows, so yeah.
Going back to when you picked the Tigers, like why LSU? Why was that the school for you?
I felt good. I was in a good spot. I got a chance to talk to the coaches and kind of see what they do. A lot of people know what they do at the receiver standpoint, talk to the coaches, and I just felt like that was a spot for me. I feel like they can produce me, get me to the next step as quick as possible. So, yeah.
I want to go back to the competing. You were at Under Armour. We saw you at Poly Bowl. You were awesome that whole week. go to Battle Miami. Then you're back in Vegas 2 weeks later at Battle. A lot of guys in your position, a lot of guys that are elite talents will shut it down. You seem to not only want to go play at every event, but then you still go and dominate at that event. You talked about the mentality of playing football on the concrete. How much has that been entwined into the player that you are? Just you always feel like you've got to prove something. You're the number 1 receiver in the country for a reason, but you go to every event feeling like you're the number 10 receiver and trying to prove that there's nobody that's better than you.
I just feel like you got to run it up, man. I feel like there's no limit to it. I mean, you got to go – the sky's the limit, and, like, you got to get there as fast as possible. So, like, that's kind of what it is with me. I love to come out and compete with some of the top guys. They some pretty great players themselves, so, yeah.
I want to ask you, we were just at the Elite 11 Finals, and our number 1 player in the country, Faison Brandon, committed to Tennessee. I mean, he talked for the 72 hours or so we were there. All he talked about on the recruiting front was, I got to get my man TK. How has that relationship evolved, and why are you guys so close throughout this process?
I met Faison. He became my friend at the Future 50, the event we had a little minute ago, and we kind of built our bond from there. Of course, we go on visits. We've been to Tennessee together a couple times, so like we just built our relationship from then, and it just became what it have been today. So yeah, that's my dog, man. He's a great football player, great quarterback, and yeah, he gonna zip that ball. That's one thing he can do for sure.
You've been to some other schools. Miami's one of them.
Yes, sir.
What did you think of your time there in Coral Gables?
Sir?
What did you think of your time at Miami?
It was great. I got a chance to talk to Coach Cristobal, the OC, thing like that. You know, they had a great offense last year. Great OC, got a great offense. Offense that I would play in. I feel like you're gonna get open if you just follow the assignment. So yeah, that was the biggest thing for me. Then they got Cedarian Coleman, great quarterback, can zip the ball. So yeah.
There's another one that I want to ask you about. I know obviously the Tennessee's done a great job. I felt like it's more than just Faison Brandon. But so what is it about the Volunteers that kind of catches your eye?
They great people, man. Great connections, great fan base, great environment. Great quarterback committed. Great receiver coaches. Like my relationship there is just to the top. So yeah, I kind of feel comfortable there.
The other one I want to ask about, Mike Elko, the Aggies, Texas A&M. I mean, you start smiling right away. I know Texas A&M is extremely hopeful that they land Tristan Keys. What do you like about him?
I like pretty much everything from, it's a business school. They do a great job at the business standpoint. A lot of connections, not a lot of network. But the main part for me would just be Coach Wiggins, man. He got a great resume, man. He do it a lot, he one of the best for sure. So yeah.
Speaking of receivers, obviously we talked about the schools that are trying to recruit you, but the school that you're committed to has some of the best receivers that play the game.
Yes, sir.
The best LSU receiver in the NFL right now. In your opinion, not just what the stats are saying, who is the receiver that you like the most, watch the most, patting yourself off the most, and you say is the best?
Jamar Chase. Yeah, he that man for sure. Big body, big frame, can go get it, can route run, got the speed. He can do everything for sure.
You mentioned some of these quarterbacks, right? Faison Brandon, Cedarian Coleman. Is that factoring into this decision? You look at LSU right now; they don't have a quarterback committed here in your class.
Yeah.
We'll see how that still a long ways to go before the early signing period. You're a guy that's also been at all these events. I remember you were here a year ago, kind of your coming out party. Are you looking at the quarterbacks or?
Yeah, I say I am. We working on trying to get one this year. We took a loss a couple days ago, but we're gonna have to capitalize. But yeah, that's the one thing I look at for sure.
One more before we get you out of here. Your Adidas shoes, Adidas socks, Adidas head to toe. You are officially a member of the Three Stripe Life. It's kind of a two-part question. Did you ever see this happening over the last couple of years, becoming an Adidas athlete? And then also, what did that mean to you to become basically the face of Adidas at the high school level?
I most definitely did not see this coming. It kind of fell into my hands, man. I was making some plays on the field. Just continue to get better, and I caught eyes. Thank God, caught eyes, and it kind of all worked out by itself. I met a great guy named Matt. So ever since then, it just been what it was, and I say it's truly a blessing. Like I said before, I get to show out for my city. I'm one of the first to do it in my city. So like, just putting on for the younger cats to let them know that it's possible. So that was my biggest thing.
Last thing I got for you, Jeremiah Smith. 2 years ago, man, at this event, kind of stamped himself, and he normally did that. Are we going to see that from Tristan?
Oh yeah, for sure. We got to, man. Yeah, that's my plan. I'm gonna continue to pray about it. We're going to go talk to God tonight about it, and we're going to come out here and perform for sure.
So we're getting it all 3 days.
Yes, sir.
I love that. That doesn't shock me. If this thing was like 2 weeks long, you would bring it every
Yeah,
day.
every day,
Tristan
man. Got
Keys,
24 hours.
5-star receiver. We appreciate your time, man. Good luck and stay healthy this week.
Yes, sir. I got y'all. Thank
All
y'all.
right, TK.
Huffman, I love that question because, when he committed to LSU, I was on paternity leave, checking the phone here and there. And that was the one where it was like, okay, I'm going to open up the laptop because Tristan Keys to me is just like those old LSU wide receivers. It's not even the old LSU wide receivers, but you think about when Joe Burrow was there and they were scoring touchdowns and, it was 50 points a game. I think Tristan Keys can win on the outside. I thought he had the best wide receiver tape of any of these guys in the class of 2026 as a junior. I think he's a game breaker. He showed it at the Under Armour game. He showed it at the Polynesian Bowl out there in Hawaii. Just my kind of receiver, high-hipped, explosive, technical route runner, can go get the football, and then obviously he's a competitor. Just kind of my flavor.
Well, we talked about it. Like, a lot of times guys will shut it down, especially this late in the cycle. They already know where they're going. They already know, senior season's coming up. But this guy is the ultimate competitor. Goes from Orlando, goes to the Polynesian Bowl. What was fascinating there is he had DeCorey Moore at both those same games. And they weren't just trying to prove that they were the best receiver in their respective classes. They were trying to prove they were the best receiver, period. DeCorey got the MVP of both games, went viral, but Tristan Keys was the alpha dog early part of the week. They're just the competitiveness, and that's something that I think was so evident watching him. And you said it a year ago when you saw him here. We saw him at Future 50. Every event he goes to, his game just ratchets up another 5 or 7 notches, and it doesn't seem like he knows how to slow it down. Like, if he slowed it down, it would almost be an insult to himself.
It's incredible to watch him work. Like I said, we talked about it on the 105. I don't think LSU is going to keep him in the class. I don't know if it's going to be Tennessee. I don't know if it's going to be Texas A&M. Don't sleep on Miami, but somebody's getting an incredible talent in Tristan Keys. But now we got to move to another incredible talent. Long, athletic, gifted, top 247 cornerback Chase Calakut. You, my friend, we're 24 hours away from your big decision.
Yes, sir.
You are going to announce here live at the OT7 Finals. How does it feel to finally be at this moment, man?
It feels great. I've been working for this moment my whole life pretty much. Ever since first couple of days of football practice in youth, Little League, Pee Wee. I've been waiting for this moment, so yeah, it's going to be big.
Has the process gotten stressful? Is it a point where you're comfortable with everything? Are you controlling it at your own pace? How would you kind of classify how everything's gone, especially over the last couple months?
Yeah, it's been smooth. I've been doing everything at my speed, making sure I don't overthink things, move too fast, like scheduling OVs too far down. Like, I just had to make sure everything was right and then at my own speed.
All right, you got 3 finalists. I believe it's down to Texas, Georgia, and Michigan. Start with Texas. What do you like about the Longhorns?
There's not much you could say wrong about the Longhorns. I would say school's 2 hours away from my house. The DBs, they Coach Akina and Coach Orfe, he knows how to produce DBs to the next level. They both know how to get them to the next level. And yeah, Texas is a great school.
What do you like about the Georgia Bulldogs?
Yeah, same thing with Georgia. They're always a natty contender team. Coach Kirby Smart and Coach Dante Williams, they both are well respected around the league and college level. They both know how to develop DBs to the next level, and that's a good school to go to if you want to be a first-rounder DB.
Last but certainly not least, you got the Michigan Wolverines. You've been to Ann Arbor. What was all that like, and what stands out about Michigan?
Yeah, Ann Arbor's a great town, college town, and the academics at Michigan is unmatched. And same thing with Coach Moore and Coach Morgan. They both know how to breed top round 1 DBs.
Tracy, you mentioned some safety coaches. You mentioned some corner coaches.
Yeah.
I think some of these schools see you in different roles.
Yeah.
So what do you prefer, and what are you? Or are you this versatile defender that can play, 5 or 6 spots in the secondary?
Yeah, I would say I'm a solid defensive back. That's what I would say. Both schools have packages with me at safety and corner. Really, whatever gets me on the field the fastest.
I feel like we keep saying this for every guy we've brought up here on the set. I remember you last year at the OT7 Finals.
sir.
You're kind of an Adonis of a DB. It's like, whoa, who is this dude?
Right.
You hadn't played much to date, right? You're at North Shore, a program that constantly churns out,
Right.
4- and 5-star prospects. You end up playing your junior year alongside Devin Sanchez, who
Right.
goes to Ohio State. So, what do you think you do best, and what has it been like learning from a guy like Devin Sanchez, who's expected to play as a true freshman here for the Buckeyes?
Really, I'll say what I took from Devin the most is his work ethic. He always kept his head down and made sure he's getting the days working, not taking days off. He was a real good grinder, I'll say. He wasn't slacking on like lifts or anything.
You get into the final 24 hours before you make that decision.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure you got the coaches blowing you up, but you probably have some of the commits to those other 3 schools.
Oh, yeah.
Which recruiting class would you say right now is recruiting you the hardest, that's blowing your phone up the most?
I'll say Texas guys, Jermaine Bishop, Diabell, all those boys. I see them all the time, so I'll say they always, Texas, those Texas guys, they be pushing the commitment the hardest.
You see him all the time. I mean, we've seen Jermaine Bishop. He's a 5-star. He's an elite talent.
Yeah.
What makes him such a good player? I mean, you know better than most people.
Yeah. Really, I'll say his athleticism and just the way he plays with that type of swag. He's Batman. I mean, hey, bro just be having fun out there. That's what I'll say, though. He just be having fun, turning up.
Texas, Michigan, Georgia.
Yeah.
You brought up all of them put guys in the league. All these programs are competing for national championships.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what's it going to come down to? What is the deciding factor here? Is it the relationships?
Yeah, I'll say that I all have great relationships with all 3 programs and coaches. I'll say it's just sitting down with my family and just making sure they feel comfortable with me going to that school, and they just see me like sitting down with my family and see if they just want me there.
You went viral a couple months ago at one of these OT7 regionals. You jumped up on a stage. It was like a 40-inch vertical jump. What are we going to see over the next few days? How are you going viral?
Oh, man. Stay tuned. That's all I'll say. Something big coming. If I catch a pick, something big coming.
I love it, man. Top 247 cornerback, safety, defensive back, do it all. Chase Calakut, 24 hours from your decision. Congrats on everything, man. Thanks for taking the time.
Appreciate y'all.
All right, this is going to be interesting over the next couple of days. So, it's going to be interesting. Shout out to your former teammate Devin Sanchez, by the way, for putting you on like 2 or 3 years ago. He said he's next one up. So, impressive, man. Go out there and kill it, man. Thank you.
Definitely appreciate y'all.
All right, so this one's been back and forth. Behind the scenes, Texas has felt really, really good. The buzz as of late, all about the Georgia Bulldogs. So I'm kind of curious. Do you see a better fit between the two?
I don't think you can go wrong, right? I mean, with what both those programs are doing on the defensive side of the ball, from my understanding, and you might know better than me, Tom, I think Georgia likes him at corner. Texas wants him at safety. I can see him in both spots. I think he's a boundary player. You turn on the highlight tape, what he was able to do as an 11th grader at North Shore, physical guy, open field tackler, can roll the hips, and then he can cover some range, right? He can cover some ground. And, both of those defenses are so exotic, and the positional lines blur. He can't go wrong with either one. And, someone's getting a good player, and it's the same thing. Like Texas, Georgia, even with the name, image, and likeness, it feels like they just draft on the defensive side of the ball.
I mean, all 3 schools have had a run of defensive backs these last couple of draft classes. The one thing I go back to is Kirby Smart. You play anywhere on that defense, there's a good chance you're going to be playing for the Philadelphia Eagles, for one thing, but good chance you're playing on Sundays. Dante Williams has done a phenomenal job every stop he's been at really connecting with the players that he's recruited. So Texas does have the proximity, but do not sleep on Georgia. Dante Williams and Kirby Smart have broken a lot of hometown schools' hearts over these last couple of years. Dante when he was at USC and Oregon. Before that, Kirby since he's been at Georgia. And that's why you can't ignore what Georgia's done. But we're also seeing a little bit of momentum coming from Michigan these last couple of weeks as well. So like you said, this could go one of 3 ways. But we go back to what we talked about with Smoke earlier. Does the closer you get to it, does that hometown school have the final pull? We'll know in a little less than 24 hours.
All right, let's go to the other side of the ball. And we got a Navy All-American on our hands here. Jordan Clay, top 247. The Navy All-American Bowl is in San Antonio. We got a San Antonio native. Jordan, your decision is on July 11th. You got a finalist group. We'll get to that shortly. But how excited are you after a long, exhausting process to finally have it come to a close in a couple weeks?
It's great. It's from the start of the process. It started really early, and I didn't really think I'd be at this point where I'd be having to make such a big lifetime decision. So now that I'm finally here, I'm kind of just taking it all in, and just looking back on the past and where I started and now where I'm going to be at and playing at a university in a few months.
You had one of the coolest stories that I remember. We talked at a 7-on-7 tournament. You said that there was a coach that was sitting down watching huddle at a restaurant, and your dad saw that he was watching this
Yes,
film
sir.
and walked up and said, "Hey, you should go watch my son's film." The next day, he came to your school and offered you then.
Yes, sir.
I mean, what's that like, knowing that your dad's out there just quietly saying, "Hey, go turn the huddle to this guy," and it turns into an offer? And like I said, you now got so many to choose from to
Yes,
get it
sir.
down. But how cool is that kind of story, and how much was your dad support in this process as well?
It was really cool. You know, he had texted me that night, and he was like, "Hey, like, UCLA might be coming by the school tomorrow." And I just didn't think much of it. But then the coach came to my school the next day, and he was like, "Yeah, I was at your dad's restaurant. I was just eating. He told me to look at your film. I love what I seen on film, and he said before I left out, I had to come see you." And yeah, he offered me. It was just a great experience. You know, great to know that. You know, there's a lot of other people out there, especially like my dad, helping me in my recruiting process, and just getting me out there when the opportunity presents itself.
You also told me another good story. When you were at the Navy All-American Bowl, you had to go across the street because there was a contact period, and I think you met with a college coach like at Starbucks
Yes,
across
sir.
the street. So how many schools have you talked to, and how have you narrowed this process down?
I would say I've talked to every school in the country. I've had Bama at my school. I've had all the top programs at my school talking to me. Just the narrowing process came down to, like, I got three things, and it's the culture, the coaches, and the offensive scheme that I can thrive in. Just all the schools I've narrowed it down to are just schools I feel like I could thrive in. I can play slot and wide out and be a good impact on that offense and thrive in that in whatever conference I end up choosing.
You brought the three finalists up. We got Baylor, Oklahoma, and Colorado. Baylor, what stands out about them?
Really just the coaching staff. Since they offered me back when I was a freshman, I went to the Baylor camp, chopped it up with the receiver coach, and then he offered me right then and there. Since he offered me, it's been nothing but a great line of communication. I know it sounds like crazy, but he's probably texting for almost a year straight now. And it's crazy to see that coach takes the time out of his day, knowing he has a family and he has there's dudes at his university to coach, to stay in such contact with me and make sure everything's good with me and my family.
And what jumps out about Oklahoma for you?
Just how Coach Emmett does things in the receiver room. I remember when I went to go see the U of H game, they won, but Coach Emmett was just on the grades. You know, some dudes weren't doing so good in the classroom, and he made sure that was the first thing he talked about. He didn't critique anybody about the game. The first thing he said was, we need to get these grades up, and because obviously if you don't have your grades up, you can't play. So then he, got into what they needed to do better. And just the whole coaching staff is great. Like even a thing I noticed when I walked into their coaching office in their hallway, they have all their families above their doors. And that just shows me, like, I owe you as family first.
And then lastly, Colorado. I saw the photo shoot photos. They looked sick.
Yes, sir.
What do you like about the Buffaloes, man?
There's a lot you can say about them. I mean, they have a little bit of everything. Coach Shermer, he's great. Then you have Coach Phillips coming out of the receiver room. He has a lot of experience. He was a Hall of Famer at U of H. He's just a great coach. Of course, Dion, just being able to be around that much NFL talent, being able to be around almost four Hall of Famers, like it's crazy. And if you want to be able to, play at the next level, will be coached by the dudes that have done it at the highest level and succeeded and have a lot of success.
Just to follow up on Colorado, I mean, 3 receivers drafted recently. I mean, is that something you're taking into account? And what is it like having Deion Sanders call you up and say, hey, come be a Buff?
Yeah, it's definitely being able to see him play. Like, I didn't really get to see him play, but watching highlights about him and just knowing the impact he's had on people, like even what he did with Travis, like the impact he had on him, had him go to Jackson State, then follow him all the way to and trust the process. It's like a lifetime dream to be able to have a dude like that at such a high standard call me and want me to come play for his come play at his university and be a player on that team. It's great, and to be able to learn from somebody that I said has done it at the highest level, it's just a great experience for me.
A lot of guys dream of playing in the All-American Bowl. You're from San Antonio. You watched that game as a kid. What did it mean to get the call to play in the game in 2025 and then also to become the first guy that's going to be able to play in 2 of these games, play your final game of your high school career in the Alamo Dome? What's that been like?
Oh, man, that's just it's crazy. I've been watching the game since I was in 8th grade. And, me and my mom have sat down and we always had a bucket list, and one of them was to be playing the All-American Bowl. And for that, to get that call and be able to know that I was going to be able to, complete a lifelong goal is just incredible. My mom, broke down in tears just because she knows how big it was for me. And to be able to come back and be a captain in the game this year is just
it's just a lot of my hard work is paying off, and I always thank God for everything that happens in my life. But I'm just really excited to be able to play my last game in the Dome.
Top 247 wide receiver Jordan Clay, July 11th, coming off the board. Very excited for you. Congrats on everything, man.
Yes, sir. Thanks
for your time, man.
Yes, sir.
Such an easy kid to root for.
Big
right?
fan.
And
Big fan.
I remember Huffman when we invited him to the Navy All-American Bowl. Kind of came across his tape. I'm like, hey, this guy's from San Antonio. We need to get a local kid every year. A lot of doubters, I would say, about Jordan Clay. And you know what? He shows up there inside the Alamo Dome. Excellent all 3 days of practice. Thought really kind of stamped himself. And it's just been fun to watch his process. Again, a guy that's from an area that's maybe overlooked a little bit by schools, and he certainly has the talent. Big, physically imposing, can go attack the football, be a bully at the catch point. Someone's getting a good one. Colorado, Baylor, Oklahoma. He's going to do it in the Big 12.
Yeah, I saw a Baylor backpack with him at the 7-on-7 tournament. I saw him at this spring, and at that point his recruitment was really starting to explode. It was just a month after the All-American Bowl, but he was rocking that Baylor backpack. I don't know if there's anything to read into that.
There might be something. I mean, I think that's where all the buzz has been. Mike Roach does a phenomenal job there covering Texas and the surrounding area. I think Baylor's going to get a good one. We'll see, though. Colorado's not going to give up. I mean, Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, he's not really one I'm going to bet against. But I like Baylor, so it'll be interesting. I want to go back before we get to our Georgia Bulldogs insider, Ben Wolk. We're going to have him on to talk a little bit about Georgia. I want to get back to this group of quarterbacks real quick. We talked about a couple of them. Huff, I'll start with you, man. From this group, who are you, and maybe somebody you have seen or haven't seen, who are you excited to see in this setting over the next couple of days?
Well, in this setting, I mean, we're going to go with Mike Eugenio.
Ah.
And it's easy. I'm taking the cop out because Low Pro wins just about every tournament. I think they're 45-1 this year in games, but Micah is a surgeon out there in the 7-on-7 circuit, but he's also a pretty dang good quarterback. Once Bishop Gorman went to him full-time last season, they just ran away with the state championship. He's headed to Hawaii, where the guy he backed up at Bishop Gorman, Micah Alejado, started the last couple games for Hawaii. So I'm excited to see him in this setting because I think this is really where he flourishes. But I also think that it's underselling the talent that he is as well, because he's a phenomenal player on Friday nights. Just maybe doesn't get a lot of the attention. He's going to the University of Hawaii as opposed to some of these big schools, but Hawaii quarterbacks put some numbers up. He made the move from Hawaii to Las Vegas to play for Bishop Gorman, and now we'll get a chance to see him maybe add a 7-on-7 national championship to what's likely going to be another state championship for Bishop Gorman.
Mike is incredible. He is incredible. He's a guy that you're going to get consistent effort. He just dices DBs up in this setting. He's fun to watch. Ivins, how about you, man? Who are you excited to see this next couple
How about
days?
some of these underclassmen, right? Just out at the Elite 11 finals. I feel like all I've done is talk about this 2026 quarterback class. I'm already spinning it forward and ahead. Quarterback recruiting is accelerated as ever these days. Trey Taylor, the Nebraska commit, expected to throw on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Last time, Tommy, and you saw him at the Battle of the Boneyard there at Nebraska. He was excellent. And then Kavion Bryant, top 64 player out of Texas, two-sport athlete, also being recruited to play some basketball. I think he is the most dynamic playmaker when we talk about quarterbacks in the 2027 cycle. Right now, coming off the sophomore season, I love this kid. You watch his Elite 11 regional workout as a freshman. You watch it as a sophomore. Noticeable improvement. I don't think enough schools are talking about Kavion Bryant yet. What's Texas going to do after Diabell? What's Texas A&M going to do in that cycle? He's a name to know, and I'm excited. Hopefully he is here throwing it around.
For me, I'm going to stick with the underclassmen. I'm going to go a little further down the road. 2028 quarterback Neiman Lawrence. He's a guy that, like Mikey Eugenio, just dices people up in the setting. He plays for SFE. He's an extremely talented prospect. Ivins, you may hate this, but I'm going to put you on the spot here. Is he a guy that way too early? Is he at least in the discussion as somebody that you could see as a potential 5-star down the road?
Yeah, absolutely, Tom. I mean, he's transferring to Miami Northwestern. He's going to play for Teddy Bridgewater, who guided his alma mater to a state title this past season. So, yeah, certainly. I mean, it's very early in the evaluation process for these quarterbacks. Jaden Wade's another name that comes to mind. He's at IMG Academy. He, too, has not played a ton of football yet. So we'll see. But certainly what we have seen from him in these type of settings. It's impressive, and he did it at Ransom Everglades. So certainly one we're tracking at 2028 rankings coming out in August. Cannot wait.
So fired up.
And a lot of colleges already interested in Neiman.
Dogs 24/7 insider Ben Woke, the man when it comes to Georgia Bulldogs recruiting. Hey, this might be a softball. Who are you excited to see over the next couple of days?
Well, I think I probably am in agreement with Andrew Ivins on this one. I want to see Jared Curtis throw in some kind of setting like this for the first time in a long time. You know, I believe greatly in the talent level that Jared Curtis has. I just want to see it in a setting like this. I've seen him tossing it around a little bit with Cedarian Morgan out here already. I'm excited to see those two connect at times over the weekend.
How excited are the guys in Athens about Jared Curtis? Obviously, he was back and forth. He commits early, then he backs away. Then there's a lot of buzz about Oregon. Then he recommits. I know Mom's happy, and everybody around him's fired up about it. But how excited are Kirby Smart and the guys in Athens?
Well, all you have to do is look at how they recruited the quarterback position this cycle to be able to figure out how strongly they felt about Jared Curtis. I mean, he committed to them a year and a half ago, decommits during the football season, and Georgia never wavered. They had some contingency plans at quarterback just in case, but Jared Curtis was always going to be the number one target for them at the quarterback position. I think Georgia took some risks in how they recruited him, because if Jared Curtis commits to Oregon, I don't know that Georgia has a clear-cut solution at the position in the 2026 class, and they really had to hit this cycle. I think they see him as a high upside future face of the program in Athens, and I think it was critical for them to bring him in as early as they did in the cycle.
Top 247 running back Jay Lamar just committed. Georgia over Miami. I'm kind of curious because I know there was a lot of chatter, a lot of buzz. In your opinion, how close was this? Because there was a lot of buzz that it was like a last-second decision. How good did you feel about Georgia the whole time?
I felt pretty good about Georgia the whole time. I mean, I think these guys are impressionable. They get on some of these visits. I'm sure that he said a lot of the right things when he was down on his Miami visit, and I'm sure he had an awesome time in Coral Gables. I put my crystal ball pick in February for Jay Lamar, and I felt as confident in that pick as pretty much any other one that I've placed this cycle. I think that you look at who Georgia brought in on official visits in June. 4 running backs: Derek Cooper, Savion Hyder, Xavier Crowell, and Jay Lamar. Those are the only 4 running backs that they hosted on officials. I don't think they felt they could miss on the in-state running back. I think Jay Lamar was as critical as any other player at any position in this class for Georgia, and I don't think that there was any scenario that Georgia was going to let him leave the state.
Ben, I think if you poll social media, a fan base that's used to a ton of success, they're kind of questioning what's going on there in Athens from a recruiting standpoint. And obviously, it's a changing landscape. I think Georgia, with the rev share and the name, image, and likeness, they've been hit a little bit harder than some of these programs. So you assess Georgia right now. I mean, you look up, it's a top 10 recruiting class. We'll see. I know there's been some commitments. You know, how do you think Georgia's doing in attacking this new era of college football?
Well, if we're just talking about this week, it's been a pretty good week for Georgia. I feel like I've been writing commitment stories after commitment stories all week long. But I think you're right. Like, when you look at the landscape as a whole, Georgia, like everyone else, is figuring out how do you navigate this new world. I think that Georgia is approaching the revenue share era the way that it was intended. And I think that they are approaching the salary cap world like NFL teams would. I think that there's positional value. I think that they understand they're having to make certain evaluations down their board at certain positions to be able to build depth. Like you said, I don't think Georgia having top 5 recruiting classes is going anywhere. I just think the way that they have to construct the class sometimes might be a little bit more creative than it was in the past, because you can't just go land every single 5-star that you want like they were able to early in the Kirby Smart era.
Well, they do have a 5-star, obviously, in Jared Curtis. But, aside from that, who are the other guys in this class that you think are going to be the household names that Georgia fans need to be just as equally excited about?
Well, one that happened earlier this week that I think was an important add was Kamari Brooks, outside linebacker from North Oconee High School. Georgia only was planning to take one outside linebacker in the 2026 cycle. They established Kamari Brooks as the guy that they wanted to add pretty early on. After his state championship game against Marist earlier, or I guess at the end of last year, They saw what he did. They said, this is a guy that can set the edge for us. This is a guy that can rush the passer. I don't even think he's scratching the surface in terms of what his skill set is as a pass rusher, but someone that is going to be a future leader in Athens. And I think when Georgia's only going to plan on signing one guy at your position and you're the guy that Georgia wants, it says a lot that they were able to lock him down.
I want to ask you about somebody that was right behind us a second ago, decked out in Texas Longhorn gear, head to toe. Derek Cooper, top 247 running back, once committed, I think here,
he was committed
1
for
year
like
ago for like
8 hours.
Yeah, it didn't sit well with everybody in the Cooper family. When you see somebody decked out in gear like that, do you look at it like, all right, no shot Texas is going to get that kid, or do you think it's like, maybe that's his leader? Like, how do you look at stuff like that? Because we saw a couple guys, we had like Texas wristbands, things like that. How do you look at all
Can I
that?
get my take? I think they go on the official visit and get free gear, and that's what they're wearing.
Yeah, I'd be rocking the Texas stuff too, probably. But I actually just asked him while I was standing over there, like, how should I read into this? And of course, he didn't give me anything. I have no idea. But I mean, look, I of course am going to read it as a smoke screen. But what do I know?
Here's my question for you, Ben. Obviously, you said productive few weeks for you, all right? A lot of time on the laptop, a lot of screen time. Who's the must-get recruit for Georgia? And you can't say they got to hold on to Jared Curtis, right? Who is the guy they got to get in this class?
They do.
I think at this point it's probably 5-star linebacker Tyler Atkinson. He's actually, I just saw him down here. He's not participating this week, so I don't know exactly what all he has in store this week. But look, Georgia just took Cedarian Tootle. They flipped him from Auburn. Georgia's going to want to take at least 2 linebackers in this class. And when you look at who they have left, I mean, it's Tyler Atkinson, it's Nick Abrams, it's Samari Watkins, it's Isaiah Williams. I don't necessarily know how I feel where Georgia stands with those other 3 names that I just mentioned. So Georgia has prioritized Tyler Atkinson from the very beginning of his recruitment. I think 8th grade going into 9th grade at Grayson, he was taking visits over to Georgia. And so I don't think Georgia wants to see another 5-star slip out of the state a la Justice Terry. And I know that some people got worried when Tyler Atkinson took that official visit to Texas a couple of weeks ago, or about a week ago now. But look, I don't count out Glenn Schumann when it comes to linebacker recruitment. I think that I would favor Georgia at this point in time when it comes to Tyler Atkinson, and I just think that that's one that Georgia feels like it needs to find a way to sign.
Follow up, I'm putting you on the hot seat here. Who is the biggest thorn in Georgia's side right now on the recruiting trail?
That's a great question. I mean, I think the gut reaction right now would be Miami because of what happened with Jackson Cantwell's recruitment. That was a tackle that Georgia felt like it was a shoo-in to be able to get, probably in old school recruiting worlds. I don't necessarily know that I feel that Miami is the biggest thorn in Georgia's side, because when you look up at certain, like, Alabama has Jordan Edmonds committed in the class. I think Jordan Edmonds is a cornerback that Georgia would have loved to keep in the state of Georgia. So I still look at the Alabamas, the Ohio States, the Texases. I think that those are the programs that, and potentially Clemson. I think those are the programs that I think Georgia gets the most worried about when they're involved. Yes, Miami has stolen some recruits away from Georgia at times, but I think that it is the national championship staple programs that tend to be the biggest problems for Georgia right now in recruiting.
Dogs 24/7 insider Ben Woke, one of the best in the business. Tremendous follow on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. You kill it, man. Thanks for being here, bud.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
All right. This was, all right, I think we're going to have, he's going to come over. Yeah, we'll give it a second. But, man, Ben truly, fresh off LASIK surgery, showing up. Love that for him. All right, Hunter Mandel, the GM of OT7. How we doing, my friend?
How we doing?
Dude, couldn't be, but the weather, thank you for this. You clearly did this on purpose. This is beautiful. I got to ask, man, you've done this. You started in 2022. I think the first one was in Vegas.
First one was in Las Vegas, 2022.
How incredible has this whole last 4 years been for you, just kind of in your position?
It's definitely a little surreal to kind of see what it's become, and it never. I don't even see what's going on. What's up, man?
Love this. Love this.
I mean, we used to cover these 7-ons back in the day, like in 2012 and 2013, and it was really difficult to like understand what was going on. And this isn't just something we came up with 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I've been thinking about this since like 2014, 2015, and we just always knew you could do it better. And now it's on another level. Like we knew that you can really maximize the media around it. You can make sense of the game. You can really give the players the exposure that they needed. Because like when you would go, you would have no idea who was on the roster. or what the teams are, what the score is. So it's really incredible what it is now.
What's this process like behind the scenes? It's not like we just walk out here, the tents appear, the players appear. How early did the 2025 OT7 finals get started, and what's it all like behind the scenes?
Yeah, so I mean, we tried to figure this out. I mean, we're looking at finals locations back in December, so it is a long process, and we got on site here on Saturday. So we start a full load in. You know, we have a turf field, so we have to lay down field armor and protect the turf and load in, thousands of pounds of equipment. We're using production trucks that are for NFL games and production trucks for NBA finals. We're investing a lot into this.
I got to say, thanks, number one, for getting us the rosters. That is by far
unmatched.
Unmatched. It's nice to know who number 5 is, and if they're going to be there this weekend. So this is year 4, and I've been to all 4 of them. I was in Vegas, I was in California, I was in Tampa last year. What is the future of OT7? And, where my mind goes is, hey, 7-on-7 is going to be an Olympic sport here, right? And you mix in the girls' game. We saw some of the girls throwing out here in the quarterback challenge. What's next for you guys? So
I want everyone to understand that this is the only meaningful spring football league that there is right now. I don't want to completely, I can't. I'm not going to curse on this, but like the XFL and regular spring football leagues. You're not seeing the future of the NFL. You're seeing guys that are most likely going to make special teams, and if they get lucky, they're going to get some time. You're literally behind us. You're seeing the future of the league. You're seeing future Heisman winners. You're seeing future number 1 overall picks. So it's like I want OT7 to be the spring football league that is meaningful and everyone watches and cares about. And I don't really care that it's not contact. You're seeing some competition you would never see on the high school level, even in college.
You guys could probably have 150, 200 teams at this event. Everybody's jostling to get into the regional events, jostling to get to the finals. Knowing you have something that is this popular, but yet still keeping it to a manageable group with elite talent in each of those teams. How important was that for you guys to not make this overkill where there's so many teams it's hard to track, but really let's focus on the 12 to 14 biggest brands and then the 12 or 14 best players on each of those teams?
So that was the hardest part when I first started OT7, is that there were so many different teams. Like first year was 18 teams, but then we had 4 different events and we had over 40 different teams compete. And it's hard for the audience to become familiar and understand these different brands and these 40 different teams all over. And, there's hundreds of teams out there. So we kept boiling it down every single year. And this past year, we only had 18 teams that played multiple weeks. My goal is I want to do at least 6, like a 6-week regular season next year. And they're going to be playing a minimum of 3 weeks, maybe 4. So now you're seeing the same faces, you're seeing the same teams, you're building fandom in our league, and it's just repeatable, just like any other football league or any league that you see.
Hunter, Ivins said it. Thank you very much for having us out here. This is unmatched. It's incredible. It's the best 7-on-7 tournament I go to every year, so we appreciate you having us out here, man.
But before we let you out of here, I want to ask you, this is year 4. You've seen the previous 3 years. We've seen, like you said, the future. The guys that are now starring on Saturdays and some of them on Monday nights in the national championship game. Who's been your favorite player to watch in the first 3 iterations of this?
Oh, man. Favorite player to watch?
In this setting. Not on Saturdays, not in college football, but your favorite player to watch in the OT7 finals.
So for this season or just overall?
Just overall, in the 3 years before.
I mean, Jeremiah Smith is pretty... I mean, it's crazy.
I'll still get fastball down the middle.
Well, you got 2 years of them.
All right,
right?
listen. All right, let's put Jeremiah Smith here, and then we'll talk about other players. Ryan Rakowski is someone that was literally no one before he came into OT7. And what I love about OT7 is that you can come in as a no-star or a 3-star, and you guys will see them and be like, oh wow, we see his game, and now he's getting D1 offers and he's getting some major looks, and he really has become an incredible player.
Well, I think it applies to Tristan Keys, we just had on set a little bit. Last year's kid out of Mississippi, he's catching passes from Deuce Knight, and it's the more you watch, the more you like, and look at him now. He's got every school in the country trying to flip him.
Yeah, and Cam Coleman 2 years ago, he was a 3-star, and then he had 6 touchdowns in one weekend, and he became a 5-star, and we never saw him again. So it was like, it was really amazing to see him just light up overnight and become like this amazing sensation.
Hunter, you're the man. This is incredible. I mean, I hope everybody at home can see this. It is an incredible turnout, so we appreciate it as always.
Thank you
seriously.
so much for having me, guys. Thanks for setting this up. This is great.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
This is so good.
Appreciate you, man.
All right. Well, I think soon we are going to have a live commitment when he comes around. It's going to be top 247 wide receiver Squel Patterson. He's got a Final Four. I kind of want to – I know we talked about some stuff earlier with quarterbacks, but you mentioned earlier you did a lot of research, and there were some teams. Was there one commit list that has a bunch of dudes here that kind of people should realize, hey, it's great for camaraderie, but anybody kind of jump out as maybe one to watch for you?
A lot of Miami defensive backs walking around. I think one of them just was behind us, putting his hat in the air. Gentavious Wyman. You have Camden Portis, son of Clinton Portis. So I think for Miami, my mind goes back to this past season, and they had to attack the transfer portal to plug some immediate holes and get that roster better. And what has Miami done on the recruiting front through the high school ranks? They've gone out and they've added a ton of defensive back. I mean, Smoke Matthews, another one that has Miami on his short list of schools. So I'm excited to see Miami's DB play over the next few days. And Florida State, it's the same thing. They got a bunch of defensive back commits out here as well. And, a passing league is kind of the best setting to see these guys move around and how they can cover.
Huff, what about you?
It's been a bit of an off-season struggle for the University of Oregon. They've lost some battles that they usually would have won. Like you said, Ivins, they're going to be the team that really closes well. They always are. But they finally got a little bit of good news last week when Jet Washington announced that he was going to be playing for the Ducks, the Bishop Gorman star. We talked about Micah Eugenio, who's the quarterback for Low Pro. One of the most fun teams to watch, but usually not with star power. Well, they have the best player in the state of Nevada. You might be familiar with his uncle, a guy named Kobe Bryant, his mom's brother. But Jet is an elite athlete, I think the number 2 safety in the country, a 5-star player. And he's the kind of commit that Oregon gets that really can start to trigger a lot more positivity down the stretch. And I think that while Oregon may not have the sheer numbers that they've had in previous ones, they're going to be there. You look at who they may add that are going to be at this tournament, and I think that's one of the most impressive lists is a lot of these schools, their heavy lifting's done. Oregon really ramps up the heavy lifting over the final weeks. Jet Washington, we'll get to see him this weekend, but the guy that might be getting that momentum ball rolling.
I also got to shout out Zone 6, right? Ohio State, what they do with the wide receivers. We just gushed about Jeremiah Smith. You look up, Caden Dixon-Wyatt's here. He's going to play for SFE. Chris Henry's here, playing for SFE as well. And then our number 1 ranked wide receiver in the class of 2027, Jameer Brown. He's going to be running around for 2.4K. So for everyone watching at home, obviously Ohio State does it well at wide receiver. We'll just know that Ryan Day, Brian Hartline, the pipeline hasn't been shut off. They continue to still get the best wide receivers in the country. And if you're tuning in this weekend, if you're here in Fort Lauderdale, you're going to see 3 future Buckeyes probably scoring a lot of touchdowns.
And a lot of Texas love, too. I think they have 8 commits here in the 2026 and 2027 class. So Longhorns pushing all the right buttons, but I do want to go to the man of the hour. Top 247 wide receiver Squel Patterson. You have a live commitment you want to do with us here at 24/7 Sports, so we appreciate it, my friend.
Yes, sir.
We're going to get to the finalists. We'll get to the commitment, but just being here in this moment, how does it finally – first of all, thank you for doing this with us. We're excited for you. You're finally here at this moment. How excited are you to announce your college decision?
Man, words can't even put it into a description, man. This is a crazy feeling, man. I'm honored. I just want to thank God first and just all the people who are part of my process. Obviously, my father and my mother, RIP, I love you. And just the coaches that were all around the way, man. I just thank and love everybody, my Indiana community. And to the kids back home, man, I just want to say if I did it, why can't you, man? And let's get it going.
You got the 4 finalists. We'll start with South Carolina. What do you like about South Carolina and the Gamecocks?
South Carolina it's obviously always had a special place in my heart with me being from South Carolina. Coach Fury and those guys and Coach Beamer, man, they showed nothing but love. I just want to thank them for recruiting me this far, and it's all good with me.
How about the Kentucky Wildcats? What jumps out about them?
Man, Kentucky, that's just a great place to be, man. Coach Collins, he made it very hard on me, man, and I just love Kentucky. Kentucky, that's one of them schools.
We just had our Dogs 24/7 insider Ben Woke talking about all the great recruiting Georgia's been doing. They're a finalist. What do you like about the Bulldogs?
Man, I love the Bulldogs, man. You can't go wrong with Georgia. Georgia, I feel like I'm just one of them people that just fit the Georgia style, man. They play hard. It's big-time football, SEC football, obviously, and just the history that Georgia has built. And This is Georgia football.
All right, last but certainly not least, the Tennessee Volunteers. What do you like about them?
Man, Tennessee, I mean, I love Tennessee. Coach Pope, he a great dude, man. Coach KJ and all them dudes down there, they've been recruiting me over these past 2 years, man. It's been nothing but love, man. I just thank Tennessee, and it's a great place.
There's a bunch of fans watching home. I'm going to make them wait 30 more seconds. Andrew Ivins, our director of scouting, talk about Squel Patterson, who reclassified from 27 to 26. Tell him how big of a deal this is.
Explosive athlete, two-way player. Could be a DB. I think he's more of a slot wide receiver. You look at the entire profile, checks off box after box. He's a long jumper, triple jumper, high jumper. That's really where he makes his mark. He's also got a college basketball offer. He can attack the rim on the hardwood. A guy that does it in a variety of different ways, and someone that's going to have a chance to make an impact in the SEC, ACC, Big Ten, wherever he ends up.
Well, Patterson, the time is yours. The moment is yours. Tell everybody at home where you'll be taking your talents at the next level.
Yes, sir. Before I get into it, like I said, I just want to thank God first and everybody who was a part of my process, man. Coach Sonny, Coach Mata, all of y'all guys. I just want to thank y'all. But with that being said, for the next 3 to 4 years of my life, I'll be taking my talents too. University of South Carolina, man. Go Gamecocks. Yes, sir. Coach Fury, we up.
Squel Patterson, the newest South Carolina Gamecock. Coach Beamer, I know he's fired up right now.
Yes, sir.
Why South Carolina over the other finalists?
Man, South Carolina, like I said, the best stay home, man. They made it hard on me. It's just the guys like Brian Rowe, Mazio Bennett, man, all them guys, they guys like myself, and they made it real special for me. Like I said, the best stay home.
Now that you've picked a school, when you get there, obviously I've said you're a 27 who's reclassed to 26. What will you be bringing to Columbia when you get there?
Man, I just got it in me. I got that dog in me, man, my whole mentality. I'm trying to build something special with the receiver room that they already got. Obviously, with guys like me coming in, we just building something special. So I bring that mentality, that fire that I got with me. I'm also smart, man. I'm just ready to work.
When did you know behind the scenes? I mean, obviously we talked earlier, but when did you truly know when you made this decision?
Man, I knew probably about a month ago. I had a conversation with Coach Fury, man. We had a heart-to-heart, and it just went from there. I always knew that I wanted to be a Gamecock.
Now that you're committed to South Carolina, you turn into the recruiter. I'm assuming there's a quarterback out there you're trying to get to join you in Columbia, right?
Man, I know there's some guys out there. I got to do some searching, but I know right now we look real good. We got Lenore, obviously behind him. We got Cutterwood, but we got Landon Duckworth. That's the guy that I want.
There it is.
Landon's been down there. Landon, you see me, man. Let's do it. Let's do something special.
Coach Beamer is one of the most passionate coaches in college football. He wears his emotion on his sleeve. You see how excited he gets when he's coaching, how much he loves being around the game and being in the game. When you let him know this week that you were going to South Carolina, what was that phone call like?
Man, it was amazing just to hear him get fired up. Like, he's always fired up. He's just a fired up guy, but just to know that he's actually family now. We in this together, and just to hear him talk about how these next 3 to 4 years of my life would be was something special, and I'll never forget it.
Squel Patterson, top 247 wide receiver, the newest commit for the South Carolina Gamecocks. Congrats, and thanks again for doing it with us, man.
Thank y'all. Yes, sir.
All right. Again, I mean, you ranked him really high. He was high in 27, high in 26. What makes this kid really a guy that South Carolina fans should be so excited about?
Well, I said it, right? You look at the profile, multi-sport, two-way snaps. He could have played basketball, college basketball. Radford had offered him at one point. We loved the tape, right? And initially on, we thought, hey, probably maybe an outside corner. That's kind of where our eyes gravitated. And then what he was able to do this past fall on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, he is a guy with make-you-miss ability, doubled as a run-first quarterback a lot. He's special. He's talented. And the reclassifications are tricky, right? Everyone thinks, hey, you reclassify, you just show up and you have success like Ryan Williams. But for every Ryan Williams, I'll give you 15 guys where it didn't work out. So Squel is someone I'm excited to see in this setting out here, how he competes and handles himself all offseason. He's checked off box after box. We're going to get him at the Navy All-American Bowl there in January as well. And the big thing here for me, South Carolina, what they have done at wide receiver. Lenore Sellers, obviously one of the poster boys of college football this year. He didn't have a ton of weapons around him this past season in terms of perimeter playmakers. Obviously, Nick Harbor, the alien that slipped out of Area 51's there, but he's not the most polished pass catcher. What does Shane Beamer and his staff do? They go out and they sign an elite wide receiver haul in the 2025 cycle. Malik Clark, Brian Rowe is someone that Patterson mentioned, and then they're following it up again here in the 2026 cycle. South Carolina identified that as a problem, and they certainly have flipped the script and elevated the ceiling of that room.
I want to touch on something because while we're talking about Patterson's commitment, you talked about the reclassification, and we are seeing that more and more. We saw Mark Bowman make the jump. We saw Richard Wesley. We saw Havon Finney make that move. You go back, and I think South Carolina, other than John David Booty 20 years ago, I think South Carolina had a quarterback a few years ago that did it, that kind of restarted the trend. Tony Grimes did as well. And you said for every Ryan Williams, there's 10 stories where we don't hear about it. Is this something we're going to see more and more reclassifications?
Oh, Huffman, you know this. It's not going away, right? There's a race to get to college now, right? You want to get that name, image, likeness. You want to get the rev share payments, and you cannot push back on any student athlete, any family that decides to go that path. I would just caution, and this isn't just for the recruits out there. This is for the colleges out there.
Yeah.
This is for the agents out there. I think the biggest thing with the reclassification is everyone inside the building needs to be on the same page. Where is this player at? When is he going to be ready to play? Because when the coaching staff thinks one thing, when the personnel staff thinks another, and then when the boosters who are signing the checks think something else, that leads to a disaster, right? And that's guys entering the transfer portal and showing up somewhere else. So to me, I'm fine with the reclassification. If the kid has shown that he can do it for multiple seasons at the varsity level, he looks physically ready to go. And then the biggest thing, when he gets to college, there is a plan. Everyone in the building is aligned. They have the same vision, because I have example after example of where no one knows what's going on. Boosters want the kid to play because they're paying him all this money, and the kid simply isn't ready to go. So I don't think reclassification is going away. It's been a thing in college basketball for a long time. Heck, Cooper Flagg was a reclassified. He just went number 1 overall in the NBA draft. But I think, again, everyone needs to be on the same page and set that student athlete up for success.
Well, and to follow up on that, not to belabor the point, but where is all the push coming from? Is it coming from the coaches? Is it coming from the personnel directors? Is it coming from the boosters? Are the coaches that are bringing these players in as reclassifications as excited to get them there without that year of high school football, without that year that they could have been developing, getting that playing time, because they aren't all Ryan Williams?
Well, the new toy is always going to be shiny, right? And I think for college coaches, we also tend to forget that, yes, they are very good recruiters. Yes, they are very good evaluators. But these guys are also trying to win games on Saturdays and make the college football playoff and not get fired. How much college, how much are these assistants really scouting these guys? So, is it the push coming from them? I'm not sure. Is it the personnel departments? I don't know. Is it the agents? Is it the families? I think it's a combination of everything. And the other thing, if you're a school and you have a relationship with an individual and you can get them across the dotted line, why not do it? With player movement at an all-time high, guys can transfer in and out as much as they want. So I think it's certainly more attractive to colleges now just because of the fluidity. We're talking about 40, 50 new faces every year at some of these programs. So I don't think it's going away. Like I said, I think that we're only going to see more and more of it. The one position that I get concerned, point of attack, LT Overton, think about him, signs with Texas A&M, former 5-star prospect, some growing pains year one, and you look up now, hey, he's got it together at Alabama, talk of him about potentially going in the first round of the NFL draft. So, it's certainly difficult to kind of project these players, but they are guys, and you look at Mark Bowman, we feel good about him. You look at Squel Patterson, we feel good about him, and that won't be the case for everyone, but some of them are ready to go, like a Ryan Williams.
Cooking with Andrew Ivins, 101. All right,
Obviously, I have a passion about this subject.
He's not passionate.
That's why I was tossing
it
up for you.
Gosh. All right, let's wrap this up. Obviously, loaded event next couple days. It's so much fun. It really could go a variety of ways. It's not always the star power, the loaded team that wins it. It might just be the team that just seems to be the most consistent and thrives in 7-on-7. Brandon Huffman, I will start with you. Call your shot. Who wins the 2025 OT7 Finals?
I'm taking the cop out the easy way, but this team wins nothing but 7-on-7 titles. I'm going with the boys from the 808. I'm going with Low Pro.
Why? Give me something there. It can't just be Micah Eugenio.
It's not. It's Micah Eugenio and then all the other receivers that he's got on his team. But this is a team that we saw dice up the South Florida Express 2 years ago.
Facts.
A loaded team. We see them do this at every event that they go to. do you look at them? You are very excited about it. They don't look like the best, and then they just go out there and they beat you 42-7 every event. I talked to Mike before the show. They're 45-1 this year, and he said the one game that they lost was they were up by 14 points with 30 seconds left, and he's still ticked off about that. This is a guy that doesn't lose a lot of games, period, but they are just the team that is perfectly designed to win events like this.
Andrew Ivins, who do you got? Call your shot.
Well, I'm going to preface this by saying I haven't been as active as usual on the 7-on-7 circuit. I was on paternity leave, so I didn't make it to any of these OT7 regionals. A few tournaments here and there. Also think I need to look over my shoulder when I make my selection. I think SFE and Raw Miami are the two I would circle here. I'm going to give you a dark horse, though, so I am copping out here. And I think if there were some odds available on who's going to win OT7 Finals 2025, give me a ticket for 24K. Guys out of Orlando, a lot of Midwest players from there. Trey Taylor, the quarterback, committed to Nebraska. Really liked what I saw from him last time in this type of setting. And then you think about the wide receivers, Messiah Hampton, Jameer Brown. Those guys can get it done on the outside. And then really what has me bullish on 2-4Ks, there's these two guys in the secondary. Me, Tom saw them in their spring game. Devin Jackson and Danny Odom. Danny Odom, another Nebraska commit. I think the Cornhuskers got a steal there. Height, weight, speed corner, ascending prospect. So, yeah, that's my dark horse. Run it to the window. Get it before live odds change. 2-4K.
I am going to go with, one could argue the chalk. I'm going to go with SFE, slightly over Raw. I mean, like you said, they are loaded. But Tucson Turf just simply never loses these things. I'm going to go with SFE, though, and it's all about 2028 quarterback Neiman Lawrence. He's special. He's just different in these settings. I love what he can do, whether it's the sevens. I mean, it doesn't matter the event. He just looks so comfortable. So the days of Vernell Brown and Jamie French, they're all gone. I think everything is just centered around Neiman Lawrence. He's special.
All right, Tom, but before we get out of here, Chase Calakut announcing tomorrow, top 247 DB. Call your shot. Where's he headed?
I'm going to give the edge to the Georgia Bulldogs. I think it's just that simple. I think this one got very interesting behind the scenes. Texas, super confident. Georgia, a little bit more confident now. All right, guys, it's been about 2 hours. What a show. Brandon Huffman, Andrew Ivins, this has been a blast. Again, all weekend long, over the next couple of days, we are going to have a ton of coverage at 24/7 Sports. We're going to have photos, video. I mean, we've got the best photographer here at 24/7 Sports and Andrew Ivins, but it's going to be a blast, so stay locked at 24/7 Sports. But as always, for Brandon Huffman, Andrew Ivins, I'm Tom Lloyd. Stay locked. We appreciate you as always. See you next time.